Erin Massey had flown Wichita to Hayes so many times she could picture the route with her eyes closed. Same towers, same farmhouse lights, same quiet Kansas night that made you forget the world was big. At 10:39 p.m. she saw a light dead ahead, sitting exactly on her flight path. Too steady, too yellow, too fixed. Wichita Center said the radar was clean, no traffic, no towers at her altitude, nothing. She eased 5 degrees north to go around it. The light stayed centered in her windshield. She corrected again. It stayed centered, like it wasn't in the sky, like it was locked onto her. At a mile out, the single light split into 7, arranged in a perfect circle, rotating slowly around a core of darkness, darker than the night itself. Her radio drowned in static. The engine hiccuped once, then again, like it was choking on air that wasn't air. The 7 lights stopped rotating at the same time, and Erin understood, with a cold certainty that hit her stomach before her mind could catch up. They weren't floating there. They were waiting. A Cessna 172 is a simple aircraft, and Kansas is a simple sky. That is why the anomaly hit so hard. The light did not blink like aviation lights, did not drift like a star, and did not show on radar. It behaved as if it knew her route, her altitude, her decisions. Erin did not want to believe it was intentional, but the feeling grew anyway. Something was choosing her. Erin saw a dull yellow light dead ahead at her exact altitude. It didn't blink, didn't drift, and Wichita Center saw nothing on radar. She turned 5 degrees north to give it space. The light stayed centered in her windscreen. She turned again, still centered, like it was matching her. At 2 miles, it resolved into 7 lights in a perfect circle, rotating slowly around a center darker than the night sky, a solid disc-shaped void swallowing starlight. Her radio drowned in heavy static. Her engine coughed once, then twice. Gauges stayed normal. The 7 lights stopped rotating in the same instant, and the cockpit flooded with harsh yellow, like daylight with no shadows. Then the engine simply stopped. Clean. Total. She pushed the nose down to glide and ran the restart checklist, but nothing responded. The 7 lights slid out of formation and surrounded her, moving with her descent like an escort. She grabbed her phone to record. The screen turned pure white. A single word appeared. Activated. Ahead, the underside of the dark disk seemed to open like a doorway. For one breath, she saw a tall, thin silhouette in that opening, watching her without moving. Then everything snapped back. The disk shot straight up and vanished. The 7 lights were gone. Her radio cleared. Her engine roared to life as if nothing had happened. Erin kept flying, hands shaking, with only that one word burning in her mind. Activated. Hayes Tower cleared Erin in like any normal night. But on short final, she saw Tommy Greer's pickup by the terminal, headlights pulsing in perfect expanding circles, like a slow mechanical heartbeat. The tower said their cameras showed nothing unusual. She landed. By the time she shut down, Tommy's lights were steady again. Normal. Her phone wasn't. One photo saved at the exact time of the encounter. The image showed only empty sky and stars, but in the corner, a single word sat there like it had been stamped into reality. Activated. Tommy didn't laugh when she asked if he'd seen anything strange. His face tightened, like he'd been waiting for someone else to say it first. He told her he'd seen the same thing over a wheat field outside town. 7 yellow lights in a perfect circle, rotating slowly, then shooting straight up and vanishing. He drove her out there. In the field, a flawless 30-foot circle marked the ground. The wheat stubble inside wasn't crushed or burned, just bent at exact 90-degree angles into a spiraling pattern, too precise to be weather, too clean to be human. No footprints, no tracks, just geometry, as if something had pressed a symbol into the land and left without touching it. Back at the hotel, the fear turned sharper. Erin came out of the shower to find her phone awake on the bed, camera running, aimed at the window like an eye. She hadn't touched it. In the corner of the screen, the word appeared again. Activated. She tried to shut it off. It reopened. She wrapped the phone in a towel and locked it in the bathroom, but the feeling stayed. Not that she was being watched by people. That something in the sky had noticed her, marked her, and was still there. The next morning didn't feel new. It felt like the night had only changed its clothes. Erin woke before her alarm with a pressure behind her eyes. Her phone was on the pillow beside her head, even though she'd sealed it away. The time flickered. A calendar alert sat on the screen, impossible to delete. Runway 36, 7 a.m., do not be late. She tried everything: delete, power off, settings, airplane mode. The alert always returned calm and absolute, like a command that didn't need her consent. Tommy texted her to meet at the field. The crop circle was no longer just geometry. In the pre-dawn dark, the spiral faintly glowed, each bent stalk outlined with a cold bluish light, uniform and precise like a circuit traced into nature. Erin raised her phone to film. The camera app crashed instantly. Tommy showed her his phone. A GPS route had appeared by itself, coordinates northwest of Hayes, and when he tried to remove it, it reset. 2 devices, 2 people, the same invisible hand. At Hayes, the airport looked ordinary, but Erin felt watched the way you feel it in your bones. She pre-flighted the Cessna with obsessive care. Nothing wrong, nothing touched. She lifted off at 7 a.m. on runway 36. At 500 feet, her phone chimed. A new message from no sender. Maintain heading 350. Climb to 7500. Do not deviate, she obeyed. At altitude, the prairie opened below. Clean daylight. Nowhere to hide. Dead ahead, a single yellow light hovered at her level. Steady and wrong. It didn't blink. It didn't drift. It simply existed in her path like a pinned star. More text appeared. Approach at current altitude. Maintain airspeed. Her radio thickened with static, crushing every frequency at once. The air in the cockpit felt thin, charged. The yellow light grew larger until it resolved into the underside of a disc, dark enough to seem like it absorbed sunlight. Panels and seams cut across it with geometric precision. Markings ran along the surface, too structured to be damaged, too alien to be human script. Then an opening formed beneath it. It didn't hinge or unfold. It separated, as if reality was being sliced cleanly and pulled apart. A rectangular void, perfectly sized in a way that made her stomach drop. Erin tried to pull away. The yoke resisted, not jammed, simply overridden. The plane descended with gentle certainty she didn't command. The yellow glow intensified until the cockpit looked like harsh noon. Shadows vanished, depth collapsed, sound thinned. Her phone went white. One word appeared: activated, and then time fractured. Later she would swear it was only seconds, but the altitude didn't match. The clock didn't match. Her memory had holes with sharp edges. When the static cleared, the disk was gone. The sky was normal. The engine ran as if it had never stuttered. Her phone was back to normal too, except for a new photo in her camera roll. It was crystal clear. The underside of the disk in daylight, unmistakable. In the metadata, where location should be, there were only coordinates. Erin followed them. In the middle of farmland that should have been empty, she saw a facility that should not exist. White buildings arranged with sterile symmetry. A tall fence topped with razor wire. And at the center, a massive dish antenna angled toward the sky like an ear pressed to space. Whatever had activated her hadn't just shown itself. It had left a trail. And it was leading her somewhere on purpose. Activated didn't mean her phone. It meant her. The pattern is the point. Isolation first, then electronics go dead, then you're guided by instructions with no sender. Evidence shows up already curated, while time itself goes missing in a clean, measurable block your body can't explain. If Erin is telling the truth, this wasn't a warning, and it wasn't an accident. It was contact done with precision. The disc, the opening, the sphere, the erased minutes, and the switch left on inside her afterward. So here's the question. If the sky spoke to you tomorrow through missing time and a single word burned into your proof, would you call it a glitch? Or would you admit it was a message? Drop your theories in the comments. Subscribe for more sightings, missing time patterns, and the hidden signals above ordinary roads. Some disappear without leaving footprints. Others disappear by being deleted. On a clear Nevada morning, Mara Lewis watched a column of white light stab straight through the sky like a spear pinned to the earth. 34 minutes later, her aircraft data said she had not moved at all. 4 days after that, her flight coordinator, Victor Hale, was gone. Not missing, not dead, erased. Mara Lewis was 32, former Air Force, now flying contract environmental surveys along restricted edges of Nevada's test corridors. She trusted instruments the way other people trusted instinct. She trusted airspeed, fuel flow, heading, and the calm repetition of routes that never changed. Victor Hale was the ground link. He watched her telemetry, marked her waypoints, kept her on schedule, and kept her safe by being the voice that always answered. On August 14th, The sky gave Mara something that did not belong to weather or training or any human chart. At 6:45 over waypoint Alpha, the desert looked ordinary from above. Pale ridges, dry washes, scattered scrub, the kind of landscape that hides secrets simply by being too empty to question. Then the column appeared, a vertical shaft of white light, impossibly clean, rising from the ground and continuing upward past cloud height, past blue, as if it did not stop at atmosphere at all. It did not bloom or flare like lightning. It did not diffuse like sun glare. It was precise, like geometry forced into the sky. Mara banked to confirm it was real, and the light did not shift the way a reflection would. It remained anchored to a point in the desert like a nail through a map. As she closed the distance, the ground beneath it resolved into a perfect circle, a burn scar too symmetrical to be a wildfire. About 300 feet across, scorched into a crisp boundary, as if the sand had been branded by a massive seal. The surface inside the ring looked fused, darker and glassy in places. Even from altitude, it read as heat that had been controlled, not heat that had spread. Her instruments still looked normal for a few more seconds, as if the aircraft itself was debating whether to believe what her eyes were seeing. Then the first failure hit. The radio did not degrade into static. It simply stopped, like sound had been switched off. The radar blanked. The navigation display blinked once, then steadied on a frozen value that refused to update. Mara tried to turn away, a simple retreat that should have been automatic. The controls resisted, not like a jam, not like a mechanical failure, like an invisible hand had decided her heading for her. At the boundary of the light, the world began to misbehave. The air outside the windshield seemed thicker, not with weather, but with geometry. Her altimeter held, her engine held, and yet the horizon no longer shifted the way it should. It felt like the sky had been pinned in place. Then she saw them. Not reflections, not clouds. Aircraft. Dozens of them, suspended at different angles around the column like objects embedded in clear resin. A B-52 hung nose up, frozen mid-climb. A military helicopter sat tilted as if caught in a sudden gust that never finished happening. Older silhouettes hovered beside newer ones, all locked in the same impossible stillness. No contrails, no rotor blur, no motion at all. Mara's stomach dropped as the realization landed. This was not a beam in the sky. It was a trap that could hold time. She pulled the yoke and felt the response vanish. The controls did not jam mechanically. They simply stopped belonging to her. The Cessna continued forward with gentle certainty, as if guided on rails, slipping toward the center of the column. In the brief seconds before the light swallowed the cockpit, her instruments began to lie. Numbers flickered into values that could not coexist. Heading and speed remained calm while the world outside looked closer and farther at the same time. Her phone screen flashed once, not with an app, but with a blank brightness that felt like an eye-opening. And in that tightening space, Mara understood one thing with brutal clarity. Whatever held those aircraft was aware of her arrival, and it was making room. Mara never felt the aircraft enter the column. There was no jolt, no turbulence, no sense of crossing a boundary. One moment she was watching the white shaft carve the sky. The next, the cockpit was inside a brightness that didn't behave like light. It didn't illuminate, it replaced. Shadows didn't fade, they stopped existing. Sound thinned into a muffled layer. The engine vibration became distant, like a memory of motion instead of motion itself. Outside the windows was a pale emptiness threaded with faint grid lines as if the air had been printed. The suspended aircraft were closer now, and worse. Not just frozen, but collected. A B-52 hung at an angle that should have ended in catastrophe, yet it stayed pinned. A military helicopter sat motionless with rotor blades locked mid-sweep. Older silhouettes hovered too. Airframes that belonged to decades Mara knew only from manuals. They weren't floating, they were archived. Her instruments tried to argue. The GPS string kept reordering itself. The clock flickered through impossible timestamps. A warning tone repeated too steadily to be random, too clean to be failure. Then something noticed her. Not a figure, not a voice. A tension, vast and ancient, pressing against the inside of her skull like deep water. Memories opened with surgical precision. Childhood, training, the first solo, stall recovery, the smell of fuel on hot tarmac, Victor Hale's face in the control room. Each moment surfaced, turned, inspected. The pain wasn't physical. It was cognitive. Her identity tightened into a shape that could be measured. The harder she resisted, the more she sensed resistance itself being logged. A final impression branded itself into her mind. The column wasn't a beam. It was a corridor of light with faint circuitry like striations, bending where geometry shouldn't bend. The frozen aircraft weren't accidents. They were samples, held at the edge of time for as long as the intelligence chose. Then the pressure released. Mara blinked and the cockpit snapped back into ordinary physics. Blue sky, normal glare, familiar engine hum. Her hands were already locked on the yoke, knuckles white. The panel read green across the board, calm and indifferent. The logs were worse than her nerves. Flight data showed no forward movement for 34 minutes. No drift, no turn. A perfect hold at altitude, as if the plane had been pinned to a point in space. Engine parameters stayed normal the whole time. It was recorded like routine, like time had paused her and restarted without leaving fingerprints. Back on the ground, she went straight to Victor Hale. Someone had to confirm her track. Someone had to say they'd seen the gap. Instead, she found a blank space where Victor should have been. Not an empty chair. Gone. His desk didn't exist. The schedule board had no name in his slot. The staff list skipped cleanly from one coordinator to the next with no gap, no correction marks, no hint a line had been removed. Mara searched emails, flight plans, sign-offs, duty logs. The system returned nothing, not even an error. It was as if the database didn't recognize the letters in his name, and the people around her didn't react like someone had vanished. They reacted like she'd asked about a person who never worked there. Confusion, mild impatience, polite correction. Mara watched their faces and felt something colder than fear settle in her chest. This wasn't denial. It was absence engineered so completely it had rewritten the room. Only Mara still remembered Victor. That was the real proof the column wasn't just an anomaly in the sky. It could freeze machines like insects in amber. It could stop a plane without leaving a trace. And it could erase a man so thoroughly that even bureaucracy forgot how to say his name. Mara left the station with her flight log in hand and a single certainty sharpening into place. The column had let her go, but hadn't let Victor Hale. Mara didn't go public. She checked the data first. 34 minutes missing. Then Victor Hale was erased. No files, no emails, no one who truly remembered him. That was the real message. The column didn't just freeze aircraft. It could delete people. 6 months later, one text slipped through. VH. 2 letters saying he still existed somewhere, time couldn't reach. If reality can erase a person, the only defense is to make the story too widespread to erase. What would you do if someone vanished and everyone swore they never existed? Drop your theories in the comments. Subscribe for more. In the Central Valley, night usually settles like dust. Jade Carrion knew that darkness well. Harvest season teaches you the logic of orchards, pump lights, distant traffic, honest shadows. That is why the line shook her so fast. It didn't flash into view, it was just there, suspended above the citrus canopy, a pale blue stroke, perfectly straight, perfectly still. No source, no spill, no shadow on the leaves below. It looked less like light and more like a mark someone had drawn across the world. The longer she watched, the more her body reacted. First, a low vibration she felt in her chest, then a sense that air had thickened around that strip of sky. The orchard stayed familiar, but the space beneath the line felt controlled, like an invisible rule was being enforced. She raised her phone to document it. The camera refused to focus, as if reality itself didn't want a record. Jade managed a 180-acre orange ranch outside Visalia. October meant long days and late nights, irrigation checks, and a routine so familiar it felt safe. She had thought the valley's darkness was empty. She was wrong. Jade stayed late to check irrigation in the North 40. The grove was empty, rows of orange trees turning into dark tunnels, only the occasional click of a valve breaking the quiet. She saw the blue line because it made the air feel split. It hovered above the canopy, perfectly straight and level, stretching across multiple rows like a ruler had been dragged through the night. It didn't spill light onto leaves, didn't cast shadows, didn't flicker. It just existed, clean-edged and unreal. A low vibration settled into her chest, more felt than heard, steady like a machine holding a constant note. Jade lifted her phone to record. The camera refused to lock onto it, snapping focus to branches and back to darkness. leaving the line as a smear on the screen. She tried again, same result. When she lowered the phone, the line was still razor-sharp to her eyes. No glow on the ground beneath it, no mark, just normal soil and fallen leaves under something that shouldn't be there. She backed away slowly, keeping it in sight. The vibration stayed calm and unchanged, as if she'd stepped into the edge of a monitored zone, and whatever drew that line had no urgency at all. She called Reagan, her husband, to come back to the grove. When he arrived, he didn't speak at first, just stared up, then stepped under the blue line like he was testing an invisible boundary. The change was immediate. The air didn't get colder so much as wrong. Sound thinned, like the orchard had been wrapped in glass. The hum sank deeper into Jade's ribs until it stopped feeling like noise and started feeling like pressure. They called CHP. The dispatcher didn't ask follow-up questions, didn't sound curious, just ran a script and ended the call too cleanly. Then the valley reacted anyway. Up on Highway 99, traffic bunched and stopped in uneven clusters. People stepped out and looked up in the same direction, quiet in the same way. And above the asphalt, more lines had appeared, not beams, not lasers, but perfect pale blue strokes suspended in the air, holding their place like a measurement drawn onto the sky. Jade stared long enough to notice the spacing. Parallel, precise, not random. A few cars tried to inch forward under them. Most didn't. Because the moment the first car rolled too close, brake lights rippled down the line like the whole road had flinched. And Jade knew, with a certainty she couldn't justify. The lines weren't just being seen, they were seeing back. Jade did not go home after Highway 99. She took back roads, like she could outrun the feeling that the lines had noticed her noticing them. At a stop sign, her phone buzzed from a number with no history. Don't stand under it. Don't look for the source. They log attention. She typed, "Who is this?" and hit send. The message vanished from the thread as if she never wrote it. Another ping followed. If you go back, go analog. No cloud, no live, no GPS. Back at the ranch office, she pulled up irrigation data and soil temps, trying to force the night into something measurable. Most of it looked normal, except one sensor map that showed a razor-straight discontinuity across 3 zones, like the orchard had been cut by an invisible ruler. One side was colder, not just at the trees, but in the air above them. She grabbed old-school gear from the office drawer in her truck, an AM radio, a compass, a cheap analog watch, a disposable film camera, and a notepad. She turned her phone off anyway and drove back to North 40. The orchard was too quiet, not peaceful, sterile. The AM radio caught a repeating tone under the static, slow and heavy, like it was vibrating inside her ribs. The compass needle twitched, then tugged toward the deeper rows. Halfway in, she crossed an invisible threshold. One step was normal night air. The next step felt thinner, pressured, electrically wrong. Then the blue line appeared again above the treetops, 6 inches wide, perfectly straight. It did not glow like a lamp. It looked like the air itself had been colored. Her flashlight did nothing to it. She raised the disposable camera and clicked. The moment did not feel captured. It felt refused. She clicked again, just to prove to herself she could. The line did the impossible. It relocated without moving. One blink, it spanned one gap. Next blink, it spanned a different gap yards away. No slide, no sweep. Just a new placement, like the scene had been edited between frames. Her truck was behind her, her phone was off. It vibrated anyway. She ran back, yanked it from the glove box, and the screen was already awake. No lock screen, no passcode. A single command sat there. Marker 23, County Road 168, now, come alone. At Marker 23, the air felt heavy, storm-like without wind. Her headlights washed over an empty field, and yet her brain kept insisting there was mass out there that light refused to define. Then her eyes adjusted. A compact object sat low in the field, warping the air around it. Not huge, not cinematic, deliberate. Parked like it did not fear discovery. Beside it stood a tall silhouette, narrow torso, long limbs, head shape wrong in a way her mind could not label. It did not sway, it did not fidget, it simply waited. Her phone brightened. Text appeared as if placed there. You are early in the change. Then meaning arrived inside her head, not words. Not threat, not warning. Assessment. A flash of an image hit her, the central valley from above, crisscrossed by pale blue lines, a grid laid over human space like measuring tape over skin. She understood the point with sick clarity. Attention was the signal. Her phone showed one more line. Don't try to keep proof. Keep yourself. The silhouette stepped forward once. No footfall, no crunch of dirt, just a shift, like a cursor moving on a screen. Her analog watch made a single loud click. The world dimmed for a breath. Headlights, stars, the edge of the field, like someone lowered the exposure on reality. Then the night returned. The object was gone. The silhouette was gone. Marker 23 was just marker 23. The wind came back in a soft gust that felt almost staged. Jade sat in her truck shaking, staring at her hands to convince herself they were still her own. On the passenger seat, the disposable camera lay exactly where she had dropped it. The film counter had advanced by 3 frames. Jade remembered taking 1 shot. Jade won't describe what happened between 3 and 3:17 a.m. Not because she's hiding it, because the memory won't stay sharp. But one thing is clear. Those blue lines didn't act like random lights. They acted like a grid. And a grid isn't there to scare you, it's there to measure. 3 weeks later, Reagan starts forgetting details. Jade doesn't. Her last note is simple. They didn't erase the story. They chose who could still remember it. And then, she goes quiet. If you saw the line tonight, would you record it, run, or go back? Comment. Record, run, return. Night in the Rockies. The cab is the only warm box of light for miles. Jackson grips the wheel as the road ahead looks edited, like someone erased the depth from the world and left only a flat strip of asphalt in its place. The beams from his truck still blaze, yet they stop short in midair, as if the darkness has weight. Then a pressure settles over the roof. Not wind, not weather, something vast and deliberate. The engine sound thins into a hollow hum, every gauge steady but meaningless, and the air inside the cab turns metallic and sharp. Jackson lifts his eyes to the windshield and realizes he is not approaching the anomaly. It is approaching him. October 2019, Colorado. The stretch from Grand Junction toward Gunnison is the kind of road that feels empty even when you are not alone. Just black mountains, cold air, and the hum of a diesel engine trying to keep you anchored to reality. Jackson had 15 years behind the wheel. He knew the difference between fear and imagination. That night, the road taught him a third thing. The line ran parallel to the highway, bright but sourceless, not blinking like aircraft lights, not shimmering like reflection, just a clean, glowing stroke suspended in open air. Jackson slowed. Mary leaned forward, trying to make sense of it, trying to film it. The phone struggled to lock focus, hunting the darkness, refusing the line like it did not want to be recorded. Then the headlights failed in the strangest way. The bulbs still burned. The dashboard still glowed, but the beam would not reach the road. It stacked up in front of the grill, flat and useless, as if the night had turned solid. The truck shuddered and died. A hard cut of silence. No wind through mirrors, no engine vibration, just their breathing. Seconds later, everything returned at once. Engine, radio, normal light. Jackson drove on, trying to laugh it off. 10 minutes later, Mary checked the GPS. Same coordinates, same mile marker, same distance to Gunnison, still locked at 38 to 40 miles like the road had reset. They passed signs they had already passed. They saw a reflector that felt familiar, then impossible. Jackson kept driving anyway, because stopping made it feel worse. The line returned. This time it did not float beside the road. It stretched across the highway ahead, widening into a pale tear in the dark. The air around it looked wrong, like heat shimmer without heat. Jackson did the only thing his instincts could agree on. He put his foot down and drove straight through. The moment the truck crossed the seam, the pressure in their ears released. The GPS jumped forward. The next sign finally changed. The road began behaving like a road again. 3 months later, Jackson had to take Highway 50 again, daylight this time, alone. He told himself daylight meant safety. It did not. Midway through the run, he saw a woman in a white dress standing on the shoulder. No coat, no bag, no car nearby. Just her, perfectly still as if placed there. As he approached, the details broke. Her eyes sat too far apart. Her mouth looked too wide. Her skin had the waxy calm of a store mannequin trying to imitate a human being. Jackson stared, caught between braking and fleeing. The truck passed her, and she turned to follow him. Not like a person, like a display on a rotating stand. A smooth mechanical pivot that kept her face tracking the cab until Jackson could no longer see her in the mirror. Then Jackson felt it, that prickling certainty you get when you are being measured. not watched casually, watched with purpose. A thought slid in, quiet and cold, not in words, but in meaning. We know you. Jackson told himself it was just a weird roadside moment. Then his CB radio hissed, one thin line of static, clean and steady, like a tone. No voice, no chatter, just a single frequency that didn't belong. A mile later, the world started to thin out. Not visually. Colorado still looked like Colorado, but sound became too clean. The tire noise dulled, like someone lowered the volume on the universe. Even the vibration through the wheel felt filtered. Jackson glanced at the clock. The digits looked normal, but the seconds didn't tick. So much as hold, like time was deciding whether to move. Then his headlights did something impossible in broad daylight. They were on. Bright, normal, and yet the beam hit the air ahead and stopped, flattened against an invisible surface just beyond the hood, as if the light couldn't move forward. Jackson whispered, no. He eased off the gas, instinct, then tried to correct back into the lane. The steering didn't resist, it wasn't stiff. It felt like the road had become a track and the truck was no longer his. And then the engine shut down, not a cough, not a sputter, a clean surgical cut. RPM dropped to 0, the hum vanished. The cab became a sealed box of silence. He coasted to the shoulder, hands shaking, trying the ignition. Nothing. The dash stayed lit, but the lights looked wrong, too steady, too perfect, like a screenshot of a dashboard rather than a living system. Jackson looked down at his phone on the seat. The screen was awake. One word sat there as if it had always been waiting. Stay. He didn't remember unlocking it. He didn't remember anyone typing it. And then he saw the shadow. It wasn't cast by clouds. It didn't match the sun's angle. It slid over the road in a shape that shouldn't exist. A triangle, wide enough to swallow his rig. Jackson forced himself to look up. A black triangular craft hung above Highway 50, low, silent, with 3 faint points of light at its corners. No seams, no detail. It didn't reflect sunlight so much as refuse it. The air changed, cold pressure behind the eyes, a metallic bite like ozone. From the center underside, something unfolded. Not a spotlight, but a hard-edged column of pale light, as straight as a doorway drawn into the air. Dust stopped drifting. And inside that column, a figure resolved, tall, thin, with limbs that bent the wrong way, joints stacked where joints shouldn't be. It didn't walk down. It simply became present on the asphalt as if distance had been folded. Jackson's throat locked. He couldn't scream. Then the contact arrived, not through sound, but straight into his head, sharp and emotionless. Seen. A second pulse followed, images that weren't his choice, the white hovering line from months ago, the GPS loop, the moment reality tore across the road. And then, the woman in the white dress, now not standing at the shoulder but standing inside his memory like a bookmark, the same wrong face, the same fixed attention. Another thought pressed in, colder. Watcher, lure, alignment confirmed. The figure lifted a long hand and touched the truck's window. The fingers were too long, too many bends. The gesture wasn't threatening, it was testing, like learning what glass is. Jackson tried to move, his body didn't respond. Not paralysis, something worse. Like his impulse had nowhere to go. Then the final thought landed, heavy as a verdict. Marked, continued. Sound snapped back, wind, distant traffic, the creak of the cab, the column of light was gone, the triangle was gone, the phone screen returned to normal like it had never shown anything. The engine restarted by itself. Jackson sat there breathing hard, staring at empty sky, knowing the scariest part wasn't the shutdown, it was how precisely it had all been timed. As if the roadside woman wasn't random, she was a trigger, a sign that the next stage had begun. That night he checked his dashcam. The file list jumped from 2:13 p.m. to 2:29 p.m., 16 minutes missing. The gap wasn't a corrupted file. It was cleanly removed, as if somebody had highlighted a strip of time and cut it out. 2 days later, a plain envelope appeared in his mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Inside, a single photo, taken from high above Highway 50 in daylight, his rig on the shoulder, and above it, unmistakable, the black triangle hanging perfectly centered. At the bottom, one line, "You were seen." And Jackson finally understood what the woman's stare had been. Not curiosity, not warning, a handoff. Jackson says the worst part wasn't the craft. It was the feeling that Highway 50 had turned into a checkpoint and he'd been processed. Because you can explain a blackout, you can explain a GPS loop, but you can't explain a photo taken from above your truck when you never saw anything up there. So tell me, If it happened to you, would you keep driving or would you vanish first? The basement dispatch room in Santa Rosa is so quiet, Leona Ward can hear the fluorescent lights breathing. Then the clock flips to 2:11 a.m., and every line on her console lights up at once. Not one caller, not two, all of them. Static floods her headset, thick, wet-sounding interference like the desert itself is trying to talk through a dead radio. Voices break in and out, a man screaming, a child crying, a woman praying, then all of it collapses into a single, impossible silence. Leona leans closer to the screen, waiting for coordinates to populate. They don't. And then, without sound, without a phone line, a word lands inside her mind, cold and command-like, as if it's being read directly into her thoughts. Return. Leona has worked 911 dispatch for 12 years in a town so small it feels like a dot on the map. Santa Rosa, New Mexico, a stop along Route 54, a black ribbon of highway slicing through open desert. Her night shift runs midnight to 8 a.m. Most hours are nothing. Lonely motorists, stray animals, the occasional drunk who can't find the motel. Out here, the desert keeps its own schedule, and for reasons Leona can't explain, it started calling her at 2:11 a.m. Firstly, Leona answers a call drowned in thick static, like the signal is being squeezed. The man says his name is Michael Valdez. He's on Route 54, alone in the desert. He's terrified, not because something is following him, but because it's matching him. A cluster of bright lights holding steady distance, too clean, too steady, with no aircraft blink pattern. Then his voice tightens. Radio died, GPS died, phone's glitching, only 911 still connects. Leona tries to locate him. The system returns nothing, no coordinates, no map pin, like the call isn't coming from anywhere real. Michael says the road feels wrong, like he's driving into dense air. He swears he passed the same reflector post twice. The static swells and his voice warps for a second, still his but stretched thin. "It's not behind me anymore," he whispers. Leona asks where it is. A pause, in front, like it's waiting. He describes a perfect white line suspended in the air, too straight to be natural, hanging across the dark. And inside the glare, he says he can see figures, not shadows, more like silhouettes behind a veil, shifting when the light shifts. A low hum rises under the static. Michael starts to shout, "It's coming down," and the call cuts off mid-breath, clean and instant. Leona refreshes the archive. There's no recording, no normal log entry, only a corrupted 8-second file of pure static. PD patrols Route 54, no gray Honda, no skid marks, nothing. Later, they confirms Michael is home, confused, insisting he never went out. His car sits in the driveway, dust-caked, untouched. Leona can't forget the one impossible detail. Out there, whatever was happening, 911 was the only thing that could still hear him. 3 weeks later, Leona is back on the night shift, watching the clock slide toward 2:11 a.m. The line hits with that abrasive static, thicker than noise, like pressure. A woman gasps out her name, Sarah Baker. She's on Route 54, mile 265, and something is following her. Her GPS is frozen, her dash glitches, and yet somehow 911 still connects. Leona pings the call, her console answers with a blank field, as if Sarah is speaking from a place the map can't name. Sarah describes a light that isn't headlights, red-white pulses, steady as a heartbeat, hovering too high for any vehicle. Then her voice tightens. "My steering wheel's going stiff, like it's being held." The static swells. Sarah whispers that the brightness is opening like a seam, and inside it she can see tall, thin shapes stepping out, too long-limbed, too precise, as if they're copying how a person moves. Leona orders her to stop, lock the doors, stay inside. Sarah inhales sharply. "It's in front of me." There's a white click. The call ends cleanly. Leona checks the logs. No recording, no proper entry. Just another gap. Patrol sweeps Route 54 and finds nothing. Later, another department confirms Sarah is home asleep, her car parked outside, no memory of leaving. Leona stares at the empty file slot, because now she's sure of one thing. Whatever owns 211 is learning. 3 weeks after Sarah's call, Leona stops trusting quiet. 2:11 a.m. All of it breaks. Not one call, several slamming into the console at once. Different lines, different voices, same panic threaded through them like a shared current. A man is yelling over wind and static that doesn't sound like weather. "Mile 277, Route 54, we're stopped." He isn't saying we pulled over. He's saying we were made still. Behind his voice, a chorus, women crying, a kid screaming for someone to wake up, a car horn stuck down and then cutting off as if the sound itself was unplugged. Leona tries to pin the calls down. Anything, tower, cell path, a hint of location. The screen doesn't fail. It behaves perfectly, smooth and blank, like it's politely refusing to admit the calls exist. Then the man's voice rises into a raw, disbelieving shout. It's right above us. It's a triangle. The word triangle is all she gets before the line distorts into something thick and metallic, like a radio chewing on a magnet. In the distortion, another voice appears, not frantic, not human, not even through the speaker, more like it's being laid over the room. Leona's ears ring, her teeth ache. The air in the basement turns dense, as if the desert has pressed its face against the building. And then a single word arrives inside her mind, with no sound attached to it. Not heard, not imagined. Placed. Return. Leona's hand goes cold on the desk. She stares at the console like it might start bleeding. She tries to breathe, but the word sits in her chest like a weight that doesn't belong to her. The calls cut off together. No fade, no click, just gone. Minutes later, the first patrol unit reaches mile 277. When the officer radios in, his voice is controlled in that way that means he's forcing it. 5 vehicles, all on the shoulder and partway into the lane. Hazard lights on, engines running. Leona grips the edge of her desk. No occupants, he continues. Doors open on 2, phones on seats. One car has a kid's shoe, just one. Her stomach drops. He adds something quieter, like he doesn't want the desert to overhear him. There are marks on the road, 3 circles, burned down to the aggregate, placed like someone measured it. Leona writes it down anyway, because writing is the only thing that makes it feel real. 3 burns. Triangle. No skid marks, no signs of a struggle, no footprints leading away. Just 5 running cars and 12 missing people, as if they were removed from the scene the way a hand lifts pieces off a board. Leona realizes 211 isn't a time the way normal people mean it. It's a doorway. She tries to quit after that, tells herself it's over, tells herself she can't be the person who sits in a basement while the highway steals families. But the number follows her. On the microwave when she wakes too early, on the gas pump when she refuses to look up, on her car clock drifting to 211 as if it's being gently corrected. Then, months later, she's back on nights. Not because she wants to be, because some part of her needs to know if the desert will do it again. Needs to know if that word return was a warning or an instruction. One shift, the phone never rings at all. No incoming lines, no radio chatter, no wind noise through the vents. The basement becomes so still it feels staged. Leona sits there with her headset on, listening to nothing, and starts to understand what being watched actually means. Not a gaze, but a presence arranging the world around you. At 211, her monitors flicker just once. Not a power surge, not a glitch, a blink. And then, without sound, without language, without any place for it to travel from, a message settles into her mind with the calm certainty of something that has done this many times before. We heard you. Soon, you will hear us. Leona doesn't scream. That's the worst part. She just sits there, frozen, because she knows what comes next is not another missing car. It's not another distressed caller. It's the moment the thing on Route 54 stops using the highway as a hunting ground and starts using her. What makes Route 54 terrifying isn't the triangle, it's 211, a repeatable timestamp like something learning the same doorway. The calls carry panic, not location, as if where doesn't matter. Devices don't fail naturally, they get quietly overridden. The word return doesn't warn, it commands. Mile 277 feels less like an incident and more like a demonstration. And we heard you. Soon you will hear us isn't an ending, it's a countdown. If your phone rang at 2:11 a.m. and the voice sounded almost human, would you hang up or listen? Tell me in the comments, have you ever had a time that kept following you? What was it? At 2:03 a.m., the Mojave is so quiet that the cruiser engine feels loud. Aiden steps out, boots crunching grit, and sees the man standing at the shoulder like someone paused mid-thought. No jacket, no fear, just stillness. Then Aiden notices the mark on the man's wrist, a perfect circle, smooth as glass, like the skin forgot how to heal normally. The man whispers without blinking. They are still watching. Aiden turns his flashlight toward the desert. A white sphere lifts off the sand behind him, silent, patient, and close enough that the beam of his light dies against it, like the night itself is being turned off. Aiden used to think night patrol was about drunk drivers and broken-down cars. Out here in the Mojave's dead air, the highway feels like a test range for something that doesn't need permission. And the strangest part is how calm it all tries to look, right up until it decides you've noticed. October 9th, just after midnight. Near the Zayak's turnoff, Aiden catches a lone white sphere the size of a basketball hovering 1 meter above the sand. No flicker, no heat, no shadow. It hangs there with the calm of something that doesn't need air to stay up. Miguel raises his phone and snaps 3 shots. The screen previews normal road, normal cruiser, normal desert. But every image that includes the sphere comes back as a solid black rectangle, like the camera is being told to forget that specific patch of space. Aiden sweeps it with his flashlight. The beam stops in midair, clean and absolute, as if it strikes a glass wall. No reflection, no flare, no spill on the sand. Just a hard cutoff that makes Aiden's stomach drop, because light is not supposed to be negotiable. He steps closer and reaches out. The sphere shifts 3 meters sideways in a blink. No wind up, no blur, no sound. Not dodging in panic. Correcting position, as if it's keeping a measured gap between them on purpose. Miguel circles to the left, trying to box it in. The sphere subtly rotates, always presenting the same face toward them, and Aiden realizes with a quiet jolt that it's not merely hovering, it's tracking, watching. Sergeant Kellerman arrives, takes one look, and goes still. He doesn't radio it in, he doesn't joke, he just tells them to write it down, keep it clinical, and get back on patrol. As they pull away, Aiden checks the mirrors until his eyes ache. The shoulder is empty again. The desert is ordinary again. But the silence inside the cruiser feels staged, like the night has been reset. And Aiden can't shake the certainty that whatever stood there a moment ago now knows exactly what their headlights look like when they turn back. 2 weeks of quiet, then October 23rd on Route 1127. Aiden and Miguel spot the same white sphere hovering in the middle of the lane, shin high, perfectly still. They stop short and approach. At 10 feet, it slides backward at the exact pace they advance, keeping the distance like it's enforcing a rule. Miguel circles wide to flank it, and the sphere rotates to face him, calm and deliberate. Aiden raises his flashlight. The beam hits an invisible barrier again, but this time the cutoff curves, leaving a thin crescent of light hanging in midair like the road is being bent. Miguel mutters, his ears feel pressurized. The sphere starts to pulse in a slow rhythm. Aiden tastes metal. The radio turns to static, and beneath it comes a brief, layered tone that feels too close to the skull. They step back. The sphere holds for one last beat, then shoots straight up and vanishes. The radio clears. The night sound returns. And Aiden realizes the shift. It didn't just appear. It reacted. November 4th. Aiden keeps the cruiser centered on the lane lines while Miguel scans the shoulders for stranded drivers and deer eyeshine. The Mojave looks empty in the way deserts always lie, like the land is holding back a secret. Aiden notices the first change in the sound, not the sight. The engine hum becomes slightly thinner, like a note losing its depth. Then the cabin pressure feels off, a subtle squeeze behind the ribs, as if the air has weight. The dash lights dim, slow at first, then all at once. The radio drops into silence. The speedometer needle falls as the engine stutters once and dies completely. For a heartbeat, they are just rolling forward on momentum. 2 men inside a dead car with no signal, no backup nearby, and too much darkness ahead. Miguel taps the console, then the radio mic, then swears under his breath. No response, no static, nothing. Ahead, the road should be dark. It is not. 3 white spheres rise from behind the ridgeline like moons lifting from the ground. Each one is enormous, silent, and wrong. They move in a perfect triangle, slowing without any sense of braking, stopping at a distance that feels chosen with care. Miguel lifts his phone. The screen stays awake. The camera opens. The preview looks normal for a split second, then every frame turns blank, as if the lens is staring into a hole the sensor cannot translate. Aiden steps out. The air tastes metallic. A low vibration presses into his chest and teeth, not loud, not even really a sound, more like pressure that pulses in patterns. One sphere drifts forward and lowers until it hangs in front of the cruiser's hood. Its surface shifts. Geometric forms crawl under the skin, sliding like liquid metal made of light. Aiden feels an urge to look away, but his eyes refuse. His hand rests on his holster. It feels pointless, like a ritual object, not a tool. Miguel whispers that it is reading them. The nearest sphere stops moving. The vibration deepens, then collapses abruptly, as if a scan has finished and the machine has decided it has what it came for. The other two spheres lift in perfect timing. All three shoot straight up, faster than anything with mass should move, and vanish into the black. The cruiser jolts back to life. Engine on. Dash bright. Radio hiss returns like breath after a long hold. They do not speak for a moment. Aiden stares at the road, waiting for the next impossible thing to announce itself. Miguel keeps looking at the phone as if it might suddenly remember what it saw. Aiden turns the car around to head back toward the last marker. He tells himself it is procedure, that you do not keep driving through a place where the world can be switched off. Then the headlights catch a figure on the shoulder. A man standing perfectly still. Just a t-shirt and jeans in the cold. No bag, no vehicle, no reflective gear. He is positioned too neatly, like someone placed him there rather than someone who walked there. Aiden slows to a crawl. The man does not wave, does not flinch. He watches the cruiser approach with a face that seems unfinished, eyes focused but empty, like he is awake inside a dream that belongs to someone else. Aiden lowers the window. The desert air rushes in, sharper now, carrying a faint ozone bite. The man's lips move, his voice is quiet and flat, every word spaced evenly, like a recording trying to sound human. They are still watching. Aiden reaches for the door handle. The cabin lights flicker once. The radio pops with a short burst of static that sounds almost like a syllable. Aiden looks back at the shoulder. The man is gone. No footsteps in the sand. No direction he could have moved fast enough. Just emptiness where a living person should not be able to vanish. And then a few yards ahead, hovering at waist height in the headlight beam, a small white sphere appears. It hangs there perfectly still, not pulsing, not drifting, simply present, like a period at the end of a sentence. Miguel does not move. Aiden cannot blink. The sphere shifts sideways in a single instant, 3 meters, no glide, no arc, no inertia, like it is demonstrating a rule of its own physics. Aiden's radio hisses again, and for the smallest moment, he thinks he hears a word inside the noise. Not a voice through the speaker, a word inside his head. Return. Aiden puts the car in drive and rolls forward, slow, controlled, eyes fixed on the road. Behind them, the desert stays silent, as if it is listening to how well they obey. Aiden never files the full report. He keeps one detail to himself, the word that wasn't on the radio but inside his skull. Return. Miguel transfers to day shift. Aiden stays on nights, memorizing mile markers, watching the shoulders, waiting for the next quiet placement of something that does not belong on a human road. If you were Aiden, would you go back to that stretch on purpose, just once, to see what answers the dark gives you? The truck vanished in an instant. The lane went empty like it had never been there. And when Grant checked his watch, he realized 15 minutes of his night had been cut out cleanly. The only thing left behind was Sierra Mays' final video frame, her face drowned in blue light inside a cab that looked completely empty to the naked eye. At 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday in October, Officer Grant Reich is running patrol on Highway 207, roughly 30 miles from the Oklahoma line, a flat stretch of Texas Panhandle where the darkness feels wide and the road noise is usually honest. Then his headlights catch a full-size 18-wheeler stopped dead in the northbound lane, with no hazard lights, no flares, no reflective triangles, just a heavy shape planted in the middle of the route like it has been placed there to be found. Grant pulls behind it, angles his cruiser lights for visibility, and expects the usual: a groggy driver, a mechanical failure, maybe a medical event. But the first detail that unsettles him is the total absence of human reaction, because no cab light turns on and no door opens and no silhouette moves behind the glass. Grant approaches with his flashlight and sees the truck is locked tight, the mirrors still, the windshield dark, and when he checks the cab and the sleeper area through the windows, he sees only empty seats and empty bunks and a dashboard that looks powered down. Then he radios dispatch for the owner information and hears a reply that bends the moment into something stranger, because the registered operator, Sierra Mays, is on the phone right now, and she is reporting that she is inside the cab. She can see the police lights, but she cannot see any officer walking toward her truck. And she is asking why no one is opening the door. Grant asks dispatch to patch Sierra through directly, and when he hears her voice, it is not distant or unclear. It is immediate and frightened, and she says she has been sitting there for 20 to 30 minutes after deciding to pull over because the air inside the cab suddenly felt heavy and the road ahead seemed to ripple. Then she says she watched the cruiser arrive and stop behind her, yet the side mirror shows no one exiting. He asks Sierra to describe the cab, and she says there is a blue electronic light flooding the space without casting shadow, a glow that feels like it is coming from every surface at once, and from nowhere at all. And as she speaks, Grant looks at the truck with his own eyes and sees no blue glow on the glass and no spill on the asphalt. But when she agrees to switch to a video call, the screen in Grant's hand shows Sierra sitting upright in the driver's seat with her face washed in that blue light, her hands shaking on the steering wheel, her eyes tracking the flashing police lights outside, and the impossible contradiction locks into place, because the video shows a living person trapped in the cab while his direct view through the window shows an empty seat. Then the time slip appears, because Sierra tells him her clock reads 1:37 a.m., while Grant's cruiser clock has already rolled to 2:31 a.m., and she insists she has not been stopped long. Yet Grant checks her location history through dispatch and sees the GPS ping has been stationary far longer than she believes, more than an hour and a half, and as the call continues, the video stutters in tiny jumps, not like poor reception, but like frames being removed, and each stutter briefly sharpens the blue glow into geometric bands that crawl across the ceiling and down the window frames, as if the light is scanning the cabin. Grant decides the contradiction ends only when he gets the door open, so he moves back to the driver's side lock with his entry tool. And as he sets the metal against the seam, the wind around the highway drops out as if someone has turned off the atmosphere, leaving a silence so complete that even dust in his cruiser lights seems to stop drifting, and the quiet feels pressurized, as if the world is holding its breath. His radio clicks once, then a voice comes through that is not Sierra and not dispatch, a voice with a strange cadence and a tone that never fully settles into any familiar accent, and it speaks as if reading from a rule book that does not care about his authority, telling him to step away, telling him that the civilian is not in his vehicle, telling him that the civilian is here. Grant freezes, because his body understands before his mind can organize it. And on the phone, Sierra begins to cry harder and says the blue light is thickening. She can feel it on her skin like static. And behind her in the video, the sleeper curtain lifts slightly, even though nothing moves it, revealing a deeper darkness that looks too deep for the small space. And then Grant forces his hands to move again and applies pressure to the lock. The moment the tool bites, the entire truck disappears without sound or displacement. No tire marks, no oil smell, no fading engine heat, just an empty strip of highway that makes his flashlight beam feel suddenly useless. And Grant staggers backward into the void of space where 40,000 pounds of metal had been, and his radio hisses into silence. When the wind returns, Grant checks his watch and sees 15 minutes have vanished, and his cruiser dashcam shows a gap in footage that begins at the instant the air went still, as if the road itself refused to be recorded. And in the empty lane, his headlights reveal nothing but clean asphalt. Yet on the phone, the call has dropped, and dispatch is calling his unit name with rising urgency, as if he has been gone longer than he can account for. In the days that follow, Grant tries to file a report that fits inside policy language, but every sentence collapses under its own contradiction, because the truck was present and absent at the same time, because the occupant was visible only through a screen, because time peeled away 15 minutes in a single breath, and the more he repeats the facts, the more he feels that voice on the radio was not warning him, it was classifying him. A few nights later, he receives a quiet invitation to a support group in Amarillo, and in a small room filled with folding chairs and paper cups, Grant hears his story reflected back through other mouths. Ranchers, mechanics, a volunteer firefighter, a dispatcher, all describing blue light with no shadow, absolute stillness in the air, and the feeling of being observed from angles that should not exist. The frequency is increasing across the panhandle, that vehicles return days or weeks later with electrical systems dead as if something drained them through the wiring. That paint and plastic show signs of intense ultraviolet exposure, and that lab tests on scraped residue have revealed metal isotopes that do not match known terrestrial ratios. Those who tried to shoot the light or force their way through it suffered brain injury, lost speech, or woke with language stripped out of their mouths as if the mechanism that took them could also remove the tool they used to describe it. Grant leaves that meeting with an unspoken certainty that Sierra is not an isolated case. She is an example, and the alien presence is using the highway as a controlled environment, placing paradox in the road to see who will approach and who will remember. 16 days later, Grant returns to Highway 207 before dawn, and the blue light blooms over the asphalt with no shadow, flattening distance until the road looks mapped by faint geometric grids. Then his radio turns on by itself, and the same non-human cadence states, "Sierra Mays is alive, preserved, and under study, and she will be returned when the study is complete." And his dash screen flashes a single frozen frame of Sierra's face lit in blue before collapsing into static. The voice tells Grant he has been marked because he saw and retained the memory, and that his role is to carry the account. And he drives away understanding the highway is not a place anymore. It is a channel that can store people like data. If Sierra can exist on video while the cab stays empty, what is the corridor actually moving? Share your theory, then hit like and subscribe. What kind of light can melt a perfect circle in snow without registering as heat, shut down a diesel tanker's entire electrical system except the headlights, and then carve symbols into glass that never fade even after the ice is gone? And if those same symbols later appear pulsing inside an oil pipeline like coded coordinates, who exactly is trying to communicate through the storm? 3 weeks after the Dalton Road incident, Gideon Merrick walked the pipeline corridor with a thermal camera and a checklist mindset, expecting nothing but cold gradients and ordinary faults. Yet he carried a single detail from a driver's report that would not leave him alone. An orange light that did not behave like fire and symbols that survived ice. The corridor around him felt too quiet for open Alaska, and his CB scan picked up short rhythmic bursts that sounded less like interference and more like something testing the channel. Gideon's thermal display found the first anomaly before his eyes did, a clean orange point hovering about 3 feet above the snow, perfectly defined and unaffected by wind-driven flakes, and directly beneath it, the snow had melted into a flawless circle, yet the thermal readout showed no heat source at all. He moved closer and watched the circle widen by a few inches in a smooth, perfect ring, as if the snow was following an instruction rather than melting, and his headset filled with a low tone that he felt in his teeth and ribs more than he heard. More orange points appeared in mirrored pairs along the right-of-way, spaced with deliberate regularity. Then 6 lights assembled into a pentagon above the pipeline and began rotating with slow certainty, and the low tone deepened into a pressure that made Gideon's stomach tighten. He raised the camera and saw the points brighten in sequence like a scan. Then the lights lowered until they hovered just above the steel, and the impossible part was how the steel reacted. Because the orange did not flare or burn, it seeped, sliding into the metal surface as if the pipeline had become permeable. As the orange sank into the line, dim pulses ignited along the pipe in a repeating cadence, a chain of faint orange nodes blinking like a message traveling through steel. And Gideon realized he was not watching a phenomenon. He was watching a process. He scraped a small metal sample from a site where the glow had concentrated, and the fragment felt warmer than it should in that cold. Then the pulses marched onward in groups, pausing, repeating, then shifting, like a code that expected to be read. That was when Gideon contacted Jude Rasson, the diesel driver whose report had started circulating through the corridor crews. And Jude agreed to meet only because the symbols were still etched into his windshield, still visible at certain angles as if the glass had been engraved by frost itself. Jude described a whiteout night at -32 Celsius when orange lights formed a corridor along the road. His engine died while his headlights stayed bright. and a tall, thin figure stepped out of an orange door and wrote numbers into instant fractal ice on his windshield with a hand that had too many finger lengths. And Jude's timeline did not add up afterward, 4 hours missing on a stretch that should have taken 90 minutes. Gideon did not need to believe every detail to recognize the pattern, because Jude's etched symbols matched the grouping rhythm of the pulses Gideon had just filmed. As if the corridor had written the same language on glass first, then upgraded to steel. Gideon brought his thermal stills and the scraped metal sample to Jude Rassin, and one look at Jude's etched windshield was enough, because the clusters matched the pipeline pulse cadence in the same pauses and repeats. They drove to a safe pullout near the corridor to test whether the lights reacted to attention, and the moment they stopped, Gideon's thermal display found clean orange points hovering 3 feet above snow with perfect edges, unaffected by wind. Then more points appeared in mirrored pairs like posts placed on a ruler, and the air inside the cab felt pressurized without sound. The kind of silence that makes teeth ache. When Gideon raised the camera, one point drifted sideways to stay aligned with the cab as if locking on, and Jude's etched symbols caught the headlights and looked briefly deeper, as if the grooves were filling with faint orange from inside the glass. Then a thin, fractal edge of frost formed along the lines even though the cabin heat was running, and Gideon realized the corridor could rewrite water and light on demand. The pipeline in Gideon's thermal view began to answer, dim pulses igniting along the steel in the same grouped cadence, traveling in runs, pausing, repeating, then shifting as if correcting itself. And when Gideon held the metal sample near the window, the fragment warmed in his glove, and the camera showed a faint orange response inside it, like the corridor could address the material directly even after removal. The dash lights dipped in the same beat as the pulses and the orange points outside, and the CB channel opened by itself, carrying a thin layered cadence under the hum, not words, a measured counting that returned Gideon's own breathing a fraction of a second late, as if the radio had become a mirror. Then the nearest orange point brightened, and the snow beyond it stopped swirling for a heartbeat, and a tall vertical absence appeared where the storm should have been, a narrow, darker shape that did not blur in wind-driven flakes. And as it moved closer without stepping, the cabin temperature dropped in a single clean notch. Jude turned toward the empty passenger seat as if someone had just sat down, and Gideon saw a second outline in the passenger window reflection, too tall and too thin to be either man, positioned exactly where an unseen observer would stand. Then the etched symbols on the windshield flared once in faint orange, and the fractal frost traced outward like a diagram being completed. Gideon tried to speak, and his voice died in his throat, while the CB cadence paused as if waiting for input, then resumed with a slightly different rhythm, and Jude's hand froze on the ignition when the engine coughed once and went silent, while the headlight stayed bright and steady like a held breath. Gideon kept filming with shaking hands until the thermal screen bloomed white, not overexposure, but a clean blank field, and in that blank Jude's silhouette and Gideon's silhouette appeared twice, offset by inches, as if the cab had two versions of the same moment layered together. Then the orange points outside collapsed inward, like they were being pulled into a single coordinate. After that, the record breaks, because Gideon's camera file ends mid-frame. Jude's dash clock later shows a jump that neither of them can explain, and the only new thing left behind is a fresh thin line etched into the glass beside the old symbols, a line that looks like a direction, and a final CB burst that repeats 3 beats, then silence. If the orange lights can melt perfect circles without heat and write persistent symbols into both glass and steel, then they are manipulating matter through rules that do not require fire, and if their code points to weak spots in the pipeline, then the entities may be caretakers trying to prevent a disaster, or they may be rehearsing control by practicing on infrastructure first before they practice on people. Gideon keeps walking the corridor with a camera and a growing dread that the next message will not be about the pipeline at all. Are the entities protecting the wilderness or protecting their own route through it? Tell me what you think happened down there, and if you want the next case, please hit like and subscribe. What kind of light refuses to cast any shadow in fog? What kind of encounter deletes 32 minutes cleanly? And why did Hannah quit after hearing silence speak? Marcus Calloway worked WS. Nights for 11 steady years. He patrolled Highway 20 through the North Cascades' darkness. He trusted culverts, chains, radios, and winter procedure. Halloween 2021 brought thick fog near mile marker 108. He and rookie Hannah Westfield checked drains beside the road. The forest felt muted, like it was holding its breath. Fog swallowed the slope near mile marker 108. Marcus saw blue light through the trees. Hannah assumed a flare. Marcus felt it was watching them. The glow stayed fixed as fog moved. It left no spill on wet leaves. It left no reflection on puddles. That absence made Marcus uneasy. They climbed carefully with flashlights held low. Boots slid on needles and slick moss. The air smelled metallic and cold. The forest sounded quieter than snow. The sphere appeared between trunks, perfectly centered. It hovered at chest height, motionless. It was about 3 feet wide. Its edge looked clean, almost drawn. Marcus aimed his beam at the sphere. The beam curved around it. The fog behind stayed unchanged. No shadow formed anywhere. Hannah stepped closer and stopped breathing. Her radio clicked once, then died. Marcus heard a thin hum in teeth. It felt like pressure without sound. The sphere pulsed brighter, then dimmer. Faint geometric lines appeared in fog. The lines formed a grid, then vanished. Marcus saw the hillside overlaid with other moments. He saw summer ferns replace winter needles. He saw charred trunks, then fresh saplings. He saw future headlights cutting new asphalt. Hannah whispered someone stood behind it. Marcus saw a tall, thin outline in fog. It moved without steps, then dissolved. The sphere remained patient and close. Marcus tried speaking, but words felt delayed. His watch froze on 1 minute. The truck lights down slope looked farther away. The sphere pulsed again, stronger now. A thought pushed into his mind. It showed caves under the mountain, glowing faintly. It showed slender figures moving in silence. Hannah grabbed Marcus and pulled hard. Her glove brushed fog beside the sphere. The air felt colder, like water. Her fingers went numb instantly. They backed downhill, never turning away. The hum followed them like an escort. The grid flickered once on Marcus's lens. They reached the truck and slammed doors. The cab clock jumped forward 32 minutes. Marcus checked logs and found a clean gap. Hannah stared into fog and started crying. Marcus hunted answers off duty, staying off station radios. He pulled night logs from sheds and old depots. Some pages were missing, yet staples stayed. Inked call signs were scrubbed into gray bruises. The gaps felt intentional, not sloppy bureaucracy. He found a recurring symbol in margin doodles. It looked like a triangle made of dots. Different hands drew it, years apart. Each time it sat near water-related notes: culverts, runoff ditches, creek bends, and spring seeps. The pattern felt like a warning, not folklore. Marcus drove Highway 20 alone and waited inside fog. The air grew heavy near a rock cut. His dash clock paused, then jumped 2 minutes. A pale blue shimmer rose over the ditch. It hovered without reflecting on wet asphalt. His flashlight beam bent, then wrapped around nothing. The shimmer pulsed and the forest went unnaturally quiet. Marcus heard a soft cadence under static, like counting. His radio lit up without transmitting any voice. The speaker returned his breathing, delayed by a beat. Frost formed fractal lines across his windshield edge. The lines traced angles, then locked into a grid. A tall, thin outline appeared inside the headlight glare. It moved without stepping across the ditch. Its shape stayed sharp inside drifting fog. Marcus saw long fingers touch nothing. Then air rippled. The grid on glass brightened, then vanished at once. His phone camera saved only black frames. Marcus backed away, never turning from the shimmer. The blue point followed, staying aligned with his cab. The engine stumbled, then steadied without his touch. The dash lights dipped in a synchronized beat. The cadence on radio paused, as if listening. Then it resumed with a new rhythm. Marcus returned home and found mud on boots, still frozen. His GPS history showed a route he never drove. A new waypoint sat over a creek bend. The label used his own typing style. Marcus understood the boundary, could write back. Marcus returned with Hannah, despite her earlier resignation papers. She said closure required one last drive. They chose November 21st, before closures worsened. Fog clung to trees near mile marker 115. The ditch water ran thin and black. 3 blue spheres appeared, forming a perfect triangle. The triangle held steady without drift. No shadow formed beneath any sphere. The air felt heavy and close. Their truck electronics died in one clean drop. The dash went dark, then stayed dark. Hannah's phone went black, then stayed black. GPS froze on a blank coordinate. Only the headlights stayed bright and steady. One sphere drifted closer, silent and smooth. It stopped beside the hood, perfectly centered. Marcus felt pressure behind his eyes. Hannah clutched her chest, breathing shallow and fast. A thought arrived without words or sound. Marcus saw 10,000 years of seasons. He saw glaciers retreat and forests return. He saw ancient fires, then silent regrowth. He saw hot vents under rock glowing faintly. Hannah whispered she saw someone inside the fog. Marcus saw deep thermal caves under ridgelines. He saw tall, slender figures in chambers. Their limbs looked too long for humans. Their eyes looked dark and unblinking. The spheres showed water channels under the highway. They showed culverts as access points. They showed drilling biting deep rock. They showed collapsed chambers and poisoned springs. Hannah tried to speak into the radio. The radio opened itself instead. A thin cadence came through, measured and close. It sounded like counting, then correcting. The cadence synced with the triangle's slow rotation. Fog around the spheres formed faint geometric seams. The seams connected into a grid for seconds. The grid slid across the windshield glass. It aligned with old etched frost lines. Hannah pressed her palm to the window. Frost fractals formed under her fingers instantly. Her hand stayed against the glass, unmoving. A tall, slender figure appeared beyond the ditch. It was not fully visible in fog. It looked like absence shaped into a body. It moved without stepping, then stopped. Marcus raised his flashlight toward it. The beam curved around empty air again. The figure lifted a hand with long fingers. The triangle tightened, shrinking its spacing slightly. The nearest sphere brightened like a signal marker. Hannah's breath fogged the glass, then stopped. Marcus called her name, but sound felt swallowed. Her outline blurred, then doubled in the headlight glare. For one heartbeat, two Hannahs overlapped. Then the passenger seat was empty. The seatbelt lay buckled, still warm. A blizzard hit without warning, drowning the road. A huge geometric structure settled onto the highway. Its edges looked sharp, then soft, then sharp. The structure hovered without sound or wind. The humanoid figure stepped out beside it. It stood tall and slender in blowing snow. It had long fingers with narrow joints. Its eyes looked black and almond-shaped. It did not speak with a moving mouth. The warning arrived inside Marcus's thoughts. We are not invaders. We live here. Respect this boundary or consequences follow. The figure raised one hand toward the forest. The spheres flashed once, then dimmed. Marcus saw ridgelines mapped in faint light. He saw triangle marks pulsing along drainage lines. Then everything shut down at once. The structure lifted without sound or wind. The spheres folded into one point and vanished. The blizzard noise returned in a rush. Marcus drove back alone, hands shaking on the wheel. He could not recall the next 10 miles. Hannah never clocked in again after that night. Her resignation file stayed unsigned, then vanished. Dispatch logs showed her truck never left the yard. Yet Marcus remembered her voice beside him. Marcus filed no report and kept private night logs. He searched ditches and culvert mouths at dawn. He found no tracks, no dropped gear, no answers. The boundary felt open, and it felt personal now. Did the spheres take Hannah, or copy her out of time? Tell me your theory, then hit like and subscribe. He filmed the brightest thing he ever saw on I-40. The playback showed only empty asphalt and dark sky. Then a voice arrived inside his thoughts, calmly. Jasper Mitchell was 24, working security for remote oil sites. He drove between pump stations during long night patrols. Uinta Basin nights felt empty, yet never truly quiet. Headlights cut dust, and radios filled the cab with hiss. Then one Tuesday in October 2019, a sensor went dead. Control asked Jasper to check well 14 in the north sector. 3 miles out, the wind stopped as if switched off. Air pressure dropped and his ears popped inside the cab. The desert sound vanished, leaving only engine vibration. Jasper realized the basin could silence him on command. Well 14 sat alone under black silence. Jasper stopped at the access road, engine idling. The desert felt sealed and the stars looked dim. A white light hovered 40 feet above the pump jack. Its edge stayed razor clean, wrapped in a faint blue rim. It cast no shadow on dirt, steel, or Jasper's hood. Jasper filmed through the windshield, yet every clip saved pure black. The real light still burned behind his eyelids. His camera lens frosted, then cleared without heat. The blue rim flickered, like sparks holding perfect shape. A low hum rose through boots and into teeth. His chest tightened, as if air folded inward. The light jumped sideways without traveling, like frames were cut. Each jump hit his ribs with one hard internal shove. Under the light, a tall, slender outline formed beside metal. Long fingers moved in slow arcs, never touching the pump. The outline turned toward Jasper, and the hum deepened. Jasper stepped out, and the ground felt colder than air. Ozone stung his nose sharp and clean. The light shot upward and vanished, leaving no trail. He checked panels, expecting scorch marks or melted wiring. Everything looked untouched, yet the sensor signal returned. No alarm logs remained, as if nothing happened. On the hill, a faint blue point lingered, then winked out. Jasper drove away, feeling watched by the empty ridgeline. 2 weeks later, Well 9 went silent, and Jasper drove alone. Fog pooled low, yet the basin stayed unnaturally windless. A white sphere hovered above the wellhead, shadowless and steady. Its blue rim crackled, but no heat rose from it. Jasper recorded again, speaking timestamps to prove what he saw. Playback showed only his cab, bright dashboards, and empty windows. Outside, the light kept pulsing, like breath behind frosted glass. Each pulse pressed his chest, then released, then pressed again. The hum returned, deeper now, vibrating the steering wheel. The sphere jumped twice, snapping to new angles without motion. 3 smaller lights blinked in, forming a tight triangle above it. The triangle rotated once, then stopped, perfectly centered over piping. Under the lights, a tall, slender figure appeared beside the pump. Its head looked elongated, and eyes looked black and almond-shaped. Long fingers hovered over valves, never touching metal, yet gauges changed. Pressure spikes flickered on his panel, then normalized instantly. The well's alarm light flashed, then the log erased itself. Jasper watched numbers rewrite, like someone editing a report live. He started mapping every sighting from other guards and crews. Reports clustered between wells 4 and 37, with harsh precision. They followed groundwater lines, uranium claims, and rare mineral seams. Some nights showed arcs of lights, swapping positions above ridgelines. Those swaps matched chest pressure pulses on every witness statement. One crew reported a silver shape sliding low beyond the berm. Another saw figures working inside a luminous ground structure. Jasper began suspecting resource surveys, not random hauntings. He felt counted, like each well was a numbered checkpoint. He kept routes secret, yet the lights found him anyway. On December 18th, Jasper patrolled the north sector alone. At 2:47 a.m., every pump stopped together. That should have required a master cut. 8 white lights appeared across the basin at once. Each hovered above a different wellhead. They held perfect spacing and moved in formation. Jasper's engine died mid-road without warning. His phone froze on 2:47 a.m., refusing to change. The hum returned, deeper and heavier. The lights swapped positions without traveling between points. Each swap pressed his chest inward once. The basin felt compressed, then released, then compressed again. A silver shape slid low beyond a berm, soundless. It looked bus-sized and seam-free. Jasper saw it pause beside well 22. Tall figures moved around the silver shape, smooth and efficient. Their bodies looked too narrow for any human. Their heads looked elongated under the white glow. Their eyes looked black and almond-shaped. Their skin looked pale gray with a wet sheen. Long fingers flexed with narrow-jointed segments. They never touched steel, yet valves turned anyway. Gauges spiked, then returned to normal instantly. Jasper tried recording with his phone again. The screen showed only his cab and black windows. Outside, the lights pulsed like breathing lungs. The hum matched the pulses beating through his ribs. Then one figure turned toward Jasper's headlights. Jasper felt a thought arrive, cold and clinical. It showed wells as dots and roads as thin lines. It showed Jasper's truck as a moving mark. The thought shifted and the mark moved without him. Jasper blinked and saw 2 trucks ahead. Both looked like Unit 14, identical in dust. Both drove the same line, perfectly aligned. Jasper looked down and saw his wheel unmoving. His truck was not moving, yet scenery shifted. The lights rose together and vanished. Sound returned in a rushing wave. The pumps restarted by themselves seconds later. Jasper checked his phone again, now 3:14 a.m. 27 minutes were missing from his memory. Dispatch called him and spoke very carefully. It said never report lights on open channels. It said the basin keeps records in silence. Jasper drove back shaking, trying to breathe. Jasper quit and moved to Price, Utah within days. He avoided oil roads and night work. The white light still appeared behind ridgelines sometimes. It stayed low, patient, and perfectly still. Jasper began seeing himself in reflections too often. A second Jasper stood across parking lots, watching. The double wore similar clothes and moved smoothly. Its eyes looked empty and too still. Its voice sounded layered, like many speakers. Jasper fled to Provo, then farther north. The light followed at a constant distance. Road signs seemed to change after he passed them. GPS routes looped back without reason. He felt guided, not chased by the light. His phone rang once from an unknown number. Only static answered, then the hum. A text appeared with no sender name. It read, "Do not look at it." The screen then went black. Before dawn, Jasper drove towards Salt Lake City again. The white point sat behind him in the mirror. Another set of headlights appeared beside it, steady. The second car kept matching his speed exactly. Jasper glanced left and saw his own face driving. The double smiled without warmth, then looked forward. Jasper's chest pressure returned in steady pulses. The road ahead looked longer, then suddenly shorter. His cracked phone buzzed with one final message. It said, "See you soon," then went dead. The hum rose under the tires, then inside teeth. Jasper reached the next exit, then saw it again. The odometer blurred, then snapped back. The mirror showed only darkness behind him. Jasper's dash clock froze on 1 minute again. At sunrise, his truck was found off Highway 6. The engine block was still warm. The driver door hung open, swinging slowly. His phone lay inside, screen shattered and dark. There were no footprints around the truck. No tire marks led away from it. His last log entry ended mid-sentence. No one filed a missing person report that week. Work rosters showed Jasper still scheduled. His payroll direct deposit continued for one cycle. Messages sent to his number never delivered. The basin stayed silent, as if satisfied. Jasper feared the lights, but feared silence more. He learned denial can be enforced quietly. He watched coworkers ignore impossible failures without blinking. Then Jasper vanished, leaving only a warm truck. If a double can herd you, who arrives afterward? Was Jasper removed, replaced, or archived somewhere nearby? Drop your theory below, then like and subscribe for more cases. The Mojave went silent, and the CB line held its breath. A white sphere rose beside Lucas, watching without eyes. Then time snapped forward, as if someone skipped frames. Lucas had driven freight routes for 11 years. He hauled electronics across the Mojave at night. Interstate 40 felt endless, flat, and exposed. The cab smelled like diesel and hot wiring. The CB crackled with bored voices and dead air. That Thursday in October 2019, he left Victorville late. Needles waited far ahead in darkness. Near Daggett, the desert changed without warning. Wind died and the road sounded muted. Even the engine felt distant, like it was underwater. Lucas checked mirrors and saw nothing behind him. Around 11:15, wind dropped to nothing. The desert felt muted, like sound got absorbed. Lucas saw dust hang in beams, then fall straight down. The CB went quiet, then returned with thin hiss. A westbound rig passed, headlights flaring in fogless air. An unknown driver broke in on CB, voice tight. He said something sat on the road ahead. Lucas slowed his truck and kept both hands locked. The lane stripe glowed faintly under his beams. A pure white sphere rested on the stripe, perfectly round. It looked 4 feet wide, clean-edged and solid. It cast no shadow on pavement or lane paint. It gave off no heat shimmer at all. Lucas rolled closer, heart pounding behind ribs. The sphere lifted 2 feet, as if noticing him. It hovered without wobble, with a faint blue rim. The rim crackled like welding sparks, yet silent. Lucas raised his phone and filmed through the windshield. The screen showed glare, then sudden black. He kept filming, blinking through tears. The sphere remained bright outside, yet invisible to file. The hum began under tires, then inside his teeth. His chest tightened with each pulse, then released. The sphere jumped sideways without traveling. It snapped to a new spot, then back again. For 1 second, Lucas saw an outline beside it. It looked tall and slender, shaped from darkness. Long fingers hung too low, almost touching the stripe. The outline turned toward Lucas and held. Lucas threw the truck into gear and pulled away fast. Mirrors showed nothing chasing him, yet the hum followed inside the cab. At a truck stop, Lucas checked the receipt timestamp. His log time disagreed by more than an hour. The gap felt clean, like someone edited tape. 3 days later, the sphere returned near Lello at midnight. No wind moved, and the highway sounded padded and distant. Another driver called it in, voice shaking on CB. Lucas was nearby and turned back to confirm. The white sphere hovered above the center stripe again. Its blue rim flickered, then steadied like a held spark. Lucas filmed through glass, keeping his hands visible. The playback showed empty asphalt and dark horizon. The sphere split into two matching spheres, clean and silent. They separated without traveling through the space between. Chest pressure hit Lucas in two alternating pulses. The hum vibrated the seat frame and steering column. A tall, slender outline appeared between the two lights. It looked too narrow to be human. Long fingers unfolded, then folded again, slowly. The outline faced Lucas, then dissolved into the glow. Lucas checked his dash clock and felt sick. 90 minutes were missing, cleanly removed. By late October, drivers reported spheres across the Mojave segment. They described shadowless light resting on lane stripes. Some described silent arcs above ridgelines, swapping positions instantly. One driver recorded from his cab near Amboy. The video showed an empty road, despite blinding light outside. On November 17th, the northern horizon flared white in waves. The waves rolled without sound across distant ridges. Lucas stopped with other trucks and watched, frozen. Dozens of spheres formed a curved lattice in the sky. A few tall figures stood on the shoulder line, motionless. Their black eyes reflected no headlights at all. When Lucas moved again, 4 hours were missing. A month later, Dustin drove the shortcut again after midnight. The air went still near the same mile stretch. Temperature dropped fast inside the cab. The engine died cleanly, without any struggle. 2 spheres appeared first, then 4 more. They formed a wide arc around the truck. Tall figures stepped from the dim glow quietly. More figures followed, lining the shoulder and median. They were thin, too tall, and perfectly balanced. Their heads were elongated and smooth. Their eyes were black and almond-shaped. Their skin looked pale gray with a matte, wet sheen. Long fingers flexed with narrow-jointed segments. They moved with smooth, efficient precision. One figure stood in the lane, centered in headlights. It raised a hand, and Dustin stopped breathing. The hum pressed into his ribs in steady pulses. Frost flowered again across the windshield in fractal geometry. Symbols formed within the frost, drawn by hovering fingertips. A voice entered his mind, cold and exact. "You are marked, you will remember." The figures stepped closer without footfalls. They surrounded the cab like a quiet ring. Dustin watched a finger point at his chest. Another finger pointed at his throat. Another finger pointed at his forehead. The spheres brightened once, then dimmed to a low glow. The dashboard clock froze, then jumped ahead in blocks. Dustin woke at a rest stop, shaking hard. 6 hours were missing from receipts and device logs. His cab smelled like ozone and cold metal. His tongue tasted like pennies for hours. The hum lingered behind his eyes all day. A quiet research circle found him through trucker channels. They asked for his receipts and dash logs. They shared reports and symptom lists in plain envelopes. They warned him to avoid mirrors after encounters. Many witnesses had headaches, tinnitus, and memory gaps afterward. Some had triangular scars in mirrored placement. Some heard tones in teeth for weeks. Some saw doubles in reflective glass. One man forgot his own address for days. During a fourth encounter, 6 spheres formed a ring over desert ground. The ring opened like an iris without any sound. 5 or 6 entities appeared inside the opening. They stood taller than before, with longer arms. Their fingers fanned wider, counting invisible measures. A sequence of images hit Dustin without warning. He saw grids of roads and moving vehicles. He saw human faces fading into blank calm. He saw a boundary folding between places. The entities sent one clear concept into his mind. Time is ending. Choice is required. The hum became a heavy pressure, then weightlessness. 2 days later, Dustin woke in a Las Vegas hospital. He remembered a beam and a falling sensation. Doctors found fine white dust in his clothes. His phone held black frames and broken time codes. After that, encounters stopped for 6 months. Then Nevada lost power statewide for 47 minutes. Darkness hit like a curtain across every ridge. The hum returned inside Dustin's teeth immediately. 2 white spheres appeared above his street, shadowless. Tall figures stood between parked cars, perfectly still. A cold voice entered his mind, calm and final. The choice is now. Neighbors later reported his porch light blinking without power. A door camera saved only black frames that night. When power returned, Dustin was gone. His truck sat idling in the driveway, warm. The driver door hung open, swinging slowly. No footprints marked the dust outside. His receipts folder lay on the seat, neatly stacked. The last note inside read 47, then stopped. No one confirmed where Lucas went after Nevada that week. Dispatch showed normal pings, then sudden blank gaps. His phone never rang again afterward. His last log ended mid-sentence, then stopped. If spheres follow you home, what comes next? Do they erase, replace, or relocate witnesses? Share your theory, then like and subscribe for the next case. An indigo UFO hovered above Eielson Runway, pulsing every 3 seconds. A small blue alien stood on snow, staring at Mason. 1 minute froze every device while it watched him breathe. Mason hauled R-11 fuel at Eielson, night after night. Pilots joked about ghosts, but the runway had stranger rules. Blue lights sometimes floated beyond hangars, then vanished. Security logs showed gaps, and cameras saved black frames. Older crews whispered about an indigo UFO near the eastern tree line. They said a small blue alien walked the snow like it owned. Mason ignored the talk until his radio carried breathing. Cold nights made engines complain, but this silence felt engineered. On February 9, 2019, the rumors became a shift order. Night shift started with fuel smell and frozen breath. Mason drove the R-11 truck behind hangars alone. 4 F-16s waited with frost-crusted skins. He topped tanks with JP-8 under harsh floodlights. Jet exhaust left faint heat ghosts in snow fog. He cleared the main line and took the ring road. The road lay empty, lit by runway spill. The radio hiss thickened, like sand pouring through speakers. The hiss had rhythm, like slow inhaling. A clean indigo glow appeared above eastern snow. It pulsed every 3 seconds, perfectly timed. The UFO hung low, heavy light with no shadow. Mason watched the pulse reflect on icy taxi lines. His phone screen flickered, then looped 1942 and 1943. The digits swapped places by themselves each pulse. The truck clock froze, then jumped forward in blocks. Mason tapped the dash, and nothing responded. The UFO moved closer without sound or exhaust. Distance shrank too fast for any aircraft. Blue light spilled across the runway centerline. Snow turned glassy, bright, and painfully sharp. Security trucks stopped at the perimeter, engines idling low. Orders came clipped over a separate channel, hold position. Nobody stepped closer, even with rifles ready. The sphere dropped to 50 feet above the runway. The radio hiss deepened and carried breathing again. Mason heard it between bursts of static. Each breath matched the 3-second pulse. Then something small stood under the light. A blue alien faced Mason from the snow. Its head formed a sharp triangle silhouette. Its eyes looked black and deep, without pupils. Its arms looked too long for its height. 3 fingers lifted slowly, mirroring the pulse. Mason blinked, and the alien was nearer suddenly. No footprints marked the snow between positions. Frost crawled across the windshield in geometric petals. The fuel ticket printer paused midline and clicked. The nozzle gauge needle trembled, then held steady. Mason felt chest pressure with each pulse. His ears rang without any sound. The alien tilted its head, studying his face. Runway lights flickered once, then stabilized. The alien vanished, then reappeared beside a runway marker. It stood closer than headlights should allow. The UFO brightened and dimmed like a heartbeat. Then it launched upward and erased itself in seconds. Wind returned with a rushing slap of cold air. After the runway cleared, Mason checked his paperwork in the cab. The fuel log showed a 13-minute blank gap. The truck GPS track looked straight, then stopped abruptly. The time column repeated the same minute twice. His phone history showed calls that never happened. The radio channel list reset to factory defaults. Mason replayed dash audio and heard only hiss. Under the hiss, the breathing returned for 1 beat. Maintenance pulled the truck for inspection at first light. Mechanics found nothing wrong with wiring or battery. The engine computer showed no fault codes at all. Yet every digital clock near the flight line matched one freeze. They all stopped for 1 minute, then resumed together. A lab analyst reviewed the anomaly quietly. NOAA satellite data showed the R-11 moved 200 yards. The vehicle GPS stayed frozen from 1936 to 1937. The same freeze hit radar and security monitors nearby. A camera frame showed snow mid-fall suspended. The next frame showed the same snow lower, still falling. Nobody could find the missing images between. The analyst compared mechanical and biological traces next. Tire marks continued through the frozen minute. Footprints advanced in the snow without interruption. Mason's heart monitor showed steady rhythm, no pause. He remembered blinking during that minute, twice. He remembered the alien closer than before, watching. He remembered 3 fingers lifted, then lowered. He remembered a symbol shaped like a ring. It hovered in his mind like an afterimage. The analyst said the minute was not lost for humans. They said it was denied to electronics only. They called it selective suppression of recording systems. Mason heard the phrase and felt cold again. If a device cannot record, it cannot prove anything. The base wrote interference in the official line. Mason signed the form and watched ink dry slowly. That night, he noticed a new scar on his palm. It was a pale circle with sharp edges. It did not hurt and did not fade. When he pressed it against cold glass, warmth returned. For a moment, the radio hiss inside his head came back. Mason volunteered for an observation post after that first freeze. He wanted distance from hangars and gossip. The post sat near a berm beyond runway lights. It was a small box of glass and steel. Snow drifted against its base like piled ash. The radio hiss returned there every night, patient. Before sunrise, the indigo UFO appeared again, pulsing steadily. It hovered low, then sank toward the snow. The light looked dense and heavy, yet silent. A second smaller glow formed beneath it, like a doorway. The air inside the post turned dry and cold. Mason saw his digital watch stop mid-second. A small blue alien stepped out onto the snow. It was about 4 feet tall. Its head formed a sharp triangle silhouette. Its eyes were black, deep, and without pupils. Its arms hung too long for its frame. It moved with smooth, careful efficiency. 2 taller figures appeared behind it, half inside glow. They stayed still, like guards. Their limbs looked longer and their faces looked blank. Mason could not hear footsteps on snow. He could only hear his own breath. The small alien approached the observation glass slowly. It raised a 3-fingered hand and pressed the pane. Frost bloomed outward in perfect fractal geometry. Symbols appeared inside the frost, forming a ring and line. Mason lifted his own palm to match it. Warmth rushed through his hand and up his arm. His chest pressure eased, then returned in pulses. A voice entered his mind without sound. It spoke in images, not words. He saw a frozen planet under dim stars. He saw underground bases glowing beneath ice. He saw tunnels branching like veins through stone. He saw the indigo sphere moving between points without travel. He saw runways drawn as lines on a grid. He saw Eielson as a dot within a map. He saw other dots lighting up, then dimming. The small alien shifted its head toward his face. Mason felt examined, counted, measured. The taller figures behind it leaned forward slightly. Their black eyes reflected nothing, not even his flashlight. For 3 breaths, time felt stacked in layers. One layer showed snow falling outside the glass. Another layer showed the same snow suspended midair. Another layer showed the runway empty, yet lit blue. Mason blinked and felt missing frames. The alien lifted its fingers and traced one last symbol. The symbol looked like a circle within a circle. Mason felt the hum align with his heartbeat. The post lights dimmed, then stabilized again. The alien withdrew its hand and stepped back. The doorway glow folded inward without sound. The indigo UFO rose without stirring snow. It blinked once, then launched upward and vanished. Mason looked down at his palm and saw a pale circle. The edge was sharp, like a stamp. Mason separated early in July 2019 with full benefits. He moved to Montana and tried normal routines but couldn't. Nights stayed the hardest and sleep came in fragments. He avoided mirrors and windows after dark. Indigo pulses returned in dreams, timed every 3 seconds. Sometimes he woke with radio hiss in his ears. Sometimes he woke standing, palm pressed to cold glass. He kept the pale circle scar as proof of the missing minute. He also kept the fear, sharper than winter air. He knew the record could be erased at will. If time can be edited, who decides what humans remember? Was the minute taken or planted inside him? Leave your theory below, then like and subscribe for the next file. A blue UFO hovered low, and aliens marched along the cliff. Lena heard her name spoken from a dead radio. Then the valley went silent, like it was holding breath. Lena Hardwell shot wildlife for 15 years, usually alone. A collar map showed wolves deep inside Absaroka wilderness. She rode in with 2 pack horses and sealed camera cases. At dusk, wolf howls turned into a metallic hum. A blue UFO rose, and the wolves answered with silence. Lena reached the meadow at dusk, fog threading pines like smoke. Wolves circled the grass in silence. 2 collared wolves watched her camp from brush. Their collars blinked once, then died. The horses refused the eastern tree line and sidestepped together. A low hum rose from the ridge and deepened. The pack kept perfect spacing, as if trained. 1 wolf lifted a paw and froze mid-step. Another lowered its head and stared uphill. Lena raised her camera and heard nothing click. Her breath fog thinned, then vanished. The creek gurgle faded, then returned muted. The meadow felt staged, like a rebuilt scene. A blue metallic UFO lifted beyond the ridge and hovered low. It held steady, ignoring wind and gravity. Small white spheres split away and formed an overhead grid. The grid rotated slowly and stayed perfectly centered. It tightened into a clean hex pattern above camp. 3 tall aliens marched along the cliff edge in file. Their limbs moved smooth, with no wasted motion. Their heads turned together, tracking Lena's smallest shift. A white pulse flooded the valley and washed the fog blue. Every device died instantly: camera, GPS, and recorder. Her headlamp stayed on, but the beam bent sideways. It skimmed the snow like water around invisible glass. No shadow formed beneath the spheres or the UFO. The hum matched Lena's heartbeat, then changed its rhythm. The radio clicked on by itself and spoke Lena once. The voice sounded calm, dry, and too close. A sphere drifted near her tent and stopped. It floated at shoulder height and did not wobble. The aliens lifted their long hands toward the wolves. The collared wolf collapsed, trembling, muzzle pressed into ash. The other wolves froze, awaiting permission to move. 1 alien pointed at the collars, then at Lena. Another alien raised 3 fingers and held them still. The overhead grid pulsed 3 times in perfect sync. Lena tasted metal and smelled ozone in cold air. The UFO shifted 1 meter without any arc. It then returned to its exact prior position. The wolves backed away, still silent, never breaking formation. Lena stood frozen, watched from sky and cliff. The hum faded, but the wolves did not leave. They paced a silent ring around Lena's tent. Their eyes stayed locked on the cliff line. The collared wolf still lay in ash, trembling. The blue UFO held steady beyond the ridge. The overhead grid dimmed, then pulsed once. 3 aliens remained on the rock shelf above. They stood upright, perfectly still, like sentries. A low sphere drifted nearer, then stopped midair. It cast no shadow on snow or grass. 1 alien lifted a long hand slowly. Every wolf froze in the same instant. Lena heard a click from a dead collar. The collared wolf's tag light blinked without power. Another wolf stepped forward and dropped torn strap fiber. The metal clasp was warm and smelled of ozone. The wolves did not snarl or bare teeth. They watched Lena as if weighing her breath. The aliens turned their heads together, tracking her hands. The grid loosened, then tightened into a neat hex. The hum returned briefly, then cut off. The spheres blinked out in a clean sequence. The aliens stepped backward into fog and vanished. The wolves stayed, holding the ring until dawn. At first light, the pack moved uphill in silence. Lena followed at a careful distance behind them. The wolves kept equal spacing, like a practice drill. They stopped at a dark circle in frosted soil. The circle edge looked cut with a blade. Warmth rose from ash fine as flour. A second circle weighted higher, identical and precise. A third circle sat near bare rock. The wolves refused to step inside the circles. The collared wolf approached, then backed away quickly. 3 aliens appeared on the ledge above, watching. A low sphere drifted down over the nearest circle. The wolves crouched, ears flat, eyes unblinking. The sphere pulsed once, and the ash shifted inward. Symbols flashed inside the columned glow, then wiped clean. 1 alien pointed at the collars, then at Lena. The collared wolf's tag blinked again, then went dark. Lena raised her lens and got 1 clear frame. The frame showed aliens facing the wolves, not her. The wolves turned as one and looked away. When Lena looked up again, the ledge was empty. Wolf tracks led straight, then vanished on bare stone. In December, Lena returned alone with upgraded sensors. She carried meters, filters, and a spectrum recorder. Snow erased her trail and softened every ridgeline. The meadow looked staged, like a rebuilt set. The horses refused water and stopped breathing loudly. Wolf tracks circled camp again, then ended cleanly. A collared wolf watched from trees, collar light dead. Another wolf stood behind it, perfectly still. No owls called, and no wind moved grass. The hum returned before any light appeared. It vibrated her chest and loosened her teeth. A blue metallic UFO rose behind the eastern ridge. It climbed without sound or rotor wash. White spheres split off and formed a rigid grid overhead. The grid rotated slowly and stayed perfectly centered. Aliens stood along both slopes, evenly spaced, perfectly silent. Their long fingers flexed, like counting invisible beats. The wolves stayed downwind, watching without a single sound. The collared wolf lowered its head and stopped blinking. Columns of light struck the ground in ordered rows. Each column held steady, then jumped to the next point. Snow did not melt, it folded inward into dark ash. Dark circles formed, clean-edged, identical, and warm. A circle appeared under every light column. The horses shuddered, yet their hooves never shifted. A collared wolf ran in, then stopped mid-stride. Its breath fog froze in place, then vanished. Lena's watch flickered, then lost a full minute. Her compass pointed down, then snapped to north again. Lena raised her camera and captured one clear frame. The frame showed 4 aliens beside the nearest light column. Their bodies looked too thin for their height. Their heads turned with no visible neck strain. A sphere drifted near her tent without casting any shadow. Her screen flickered between 2 times, then went black. A fractal ice pattern crawled across her lens. The ice vanished, leaving the glass perfectly dry. The wolves began circling, keeping equal spacing from Lena. One wolf stepped into ash and did not flinch. A dead radio clicked on by itself. It spoke in a dry mechanical voice, calm and precise. Observation noted. Continue observation. The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. The radio then spoke Lena once, without emotion. Aliens turned together, facing her camp in sync. The hum answered, rising in a slow breathing rhythm. Warmth spread through Lena's palm and wrist. Images flashed of hex cells under snow and stone. She saw wolves moving like pieces on a board. She felt watched from inside the ground. The blue UFO moved closer and paused above the dry creek. The overhead grid tightened into a clean hex pattern. Symbols pulsed inside the columns, then wiped clean again. One alien walked forward, closing distance without visible effort. It stopped near the circle edge and lifted one hand. The collared wolf dropped, trembling, muzzle pressed into ash. The other wolves froze, as if awaiting permission. The spheres blinked once, and the valley went dark. Lena packed fast, hands shaking, breath thin and sharp. Behind her, the hum matched her heartbeat, then changed. After that night, Lena identified 31 related survey sites. They spanned 4 states and followed the same hex grid. Every site produced the same radio message and electronic failures. The pattern kept expanding with patient and deliberate precision. Why would aliens want humans to keep watching their work? Are they mapping wolves, water, or the observers themselves? Share your theory below, then like and subscribe for more cases. Ellie saw a blue ring open above the surf, an alien face pressed against the light, watching her blink. More rings formed a square, and the ocean went mute. Ellie worked night patrol along the Texas shoreline. She logged tides, trespassers, and broken buoys. That night the coast felt staged and emptied. Even waves sounded distant like muffled breath. Backup arrived with a camera and spare batteries. They expected smugglers but found a scheduled arrival. Blue light hovered 3 feet above the tide line. It formed a clean circle 6 feet wide with an edge too sharp for mist. It threw no glow onto the water, not even a faint smear. Ellie stepped closer and felt pressure climb behind her ears. The halo slid against the current, leaving no wake, no ripple, no disturbed foam. A second halo appeared 50 yards downshore, then a third, evenly spaced. They held position like survey markers, then snapped into a perfect square with one synchronized blink. Each ring flashed 3 beats, then a long pause, repeating like a coded metronome. The beach wind stopped inside the square, yet Ellie still felt cold moving across her skin. Sand grains froze mid-drift near her boots, then fell straight down like the air had changed density. Her radio popped once with a short burst of clipped static, then fell into dead silence. The backup officer's camera kept recording, yet the live screen showed only empty shoreline and ordinary surf. Ellie looked back up, and the rings were still there, bright as welding arcs, refusing to appear on the feed. She raised her flashlight toward the nearest ring and watched the beam bend sideways, curving as if wrapped around invisible glass. The ring brightened, then sank into deep indigo. Shapes crawled across its surface like living geometry, angles collapsing into new angles. Something stood inside the circle, tall and narrow, too clearly shaped to be glare. It looked like an alien, not a trick of fog. Limbs hung too long, elbows bending in wrong places. Its head tilted, smooth and unreadable, and two dark almond eyes held steady on Ellie. A thin mouth line opened, but no sound came out. Ellie felt a cold mind press against her thoughts. Not emotion, just presence and measurement. Images hit her in a burst. Ocean trenches like black wounds, earth from far above, then distant structures suspended over water. Her heartbeat slowed, forced into the ring rhythm. The backup officer spoke, but Ellie could not hear the words. The world dimmed, as if someone lowered every sound and color at once. The ring pulsed once, brighter than the others, and darkness dropped like a curtain. When sight returned, Ellie's clock read 12:17. 90 minutes were missing from her memory, cleanly cut out. The square formation was gone. The backup officer's camera card held nothing but fresh, empty space, as if the night never happened. Ellie did not get a second first encounter. She got aftermath. Before the rings returned, the shoreline infrastructure began failing in a pattern that felt planned. Buoy strobes went dark in sequence from west to east. Tide sensors reported normal numbers, while the waterline climbed anyway. Her radio picked up a low 3-beat thump beneath every channel, like a sonar pulse pressed into static. The backup officer filmed the horizon. Then the camera battery drained from full to 0 in 1 minute. A blue glint appeared offshore, not a halo this time, but a vertical seam of light rising from the water like a blade. The seam widened and revealed a hard-edged craft hovering inches above the surface, smooth and jointless, reflecting nothing. Under it, the ocean flattened into a perfect circle. Ellie saw aliens on the craft's underside, hanging as if gravity belonged to them, their long limbs folded tight, their eyes fixed on the rig. No ring framed them, no glow softened them. They were simply there, exposed and deliberate. Rig 7 went quiet again, but differently. Lights did not fail first. Sound failed first. The platform's generator vibration continued, yet the noise vanished, like someone removed the air that carries it. Ellie climbed the access stairs and felt her lungs working in a silent world. In the control room, the monitors were on, but no longer showed squares. They showed a rotating wireframe map of the rig, layers peeling back to reveal pipes and tanks like an X-ray. Symbols flowed over the map in tight streams, pausing at valves, joints, and weld seams. The 6 workers stood arranged in a neat line facing the sea, eyes open, hands lowered, breath shallow. An alien stepped onto the deck without climbing, as if it had been placed there between frames. Its skin looked slick and dark, with a faint blue sheen. 3 fingers touched a railing, and frost spread in branching geometry, then stopped at a perfect boundary. Ellie felt a message press into her mind. Not friendly, not hostile, just directive. Keep distance. Keep watching. Keep recording. The backup officer raised the camera and the screen filled with blue noise, but Ellie's eyes stayed clear. The alien turned its head toward her and held eye contact too long. The deck lamps flickered once, then returned. The workers blinked together and came back with empty minutes. Ellie looked down and saw wet footprints on dry steel, each print shaped like a narrow hand. Reports spread along the coast within days. Blue halos appeared near piers, channels, and open water. Each sighting followed a route, never random. The rings always formed squares or hex grids. Aliens were seen inside them, watching quietly. They never chased, yet people felt guided, pulled by the geometry. Ellie began collecting timestamps and distances. She compared tide charts to the pulse rhythm. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats, pause. The rhythm aligned with the ocean more than clocks. Some nights, the rings drifted against the current again, as if rejecting local physics. Water around them stayed unnaturally still, a calm disk inside moving surf. Fish surfaced belly up near the edge, then rolled and swam away unharmed, as if stunned and released. The rings started appearing in larger sets. 4 became 16, 6 became 36. They arranged into lanes offshore, like traffic patterns only they could see. When Ellie drove parallel to those lanes, her headlights seemed to lose brightness inside the glow. Her radio hissed in measured pulses. The backup officer's camera continued failing in the same way, showing normal darkness where Ellie saw indigo light. Ellie began to understand the rings were not just light. They were a filter, deciding what could be recorded. On October 15th, the sea began glowing everywhere. The glow spread across miles of water like ink in reverse, rising instead of sinking. A dome lifted from the surface, a mile high, formed without splash and without falling drops. Inside the dome, thousands of halos hovered in rows. Aliens stood within them like sentries, repeating posture, repeating distance, repeating the same three-finger sign. The dome's inner surface looked like a curved screen, showing shifting geometric maps that mirrored the coastline. A message entered minds along the shore. It felt shared, not spoken, and it arrived with images instead of sentences. Earth from above, lit lines of cities, deep ocean trenches, then unfamiliar habitats built into water and air. The message carried a choice: join a wider order or remain isolated. Some people collapsed crying without knowing why. Some people walked toward the water and stopped at the tide line as if held there by invisible rules. When the dome fell, it left blue crystals scattered on beaches. Each crystal hummed faintly near human skin. Ellie touched one and felt her thoughts sharpen. She began hearing patterns inside radio noise. She began recognizing the three-beat rhythm in ordinary sounds. The backup officer touched one and began drawing grids compulsively, as if compelled to map the rings. Both of them dreamed of the dome every night, always waking at the same minute. After that, Ellie's patrol notes became fragmented and obsessive. The backup officer vanished from all records, as if never employed. Blue halos still appear when the tide turns wrong. If aliens offer a choice, who decides the price? Comment your theory, like, and subscribe for more Shoreline Files. At 3:17, Carlos's radio inhaled and exhaled with no signal. A UFO hovered above Bunker 12, pulsing blue through the darkness. Something tall waited inside, and his headlights forgot how to shine. Carlos Rodriguez followed one rule on night patrols. He never worked midnight on a new moon. On March 8th, he broke it for extra money. He wanted a gaming computer for his daughter. The northern sectors felt newer, quieter, and farther from help. No phone signal reached Sector E. The darkness that night felt thick enough to hold. Carlos started the midnight loop with a tight jaw. The new moon hid every ridge and marker. Sector lights sat far apart and felt useless. His tires whispered over gravel and dry salt dust. The radio hissed, then breathed like a hidden animal. Inhale arrived steady, then exhale dragged longer. He checked the channel knob twice, then froze. No signal should breathe with that rhythm. He drove past the A gate and counted fence posts. He logged each pump pad and each storage row. The air inside the cab thickened, then thinned again. His ears popped once, then rang with faint pressure. His headlights looked weaker with every mile. The gauges stayed calm and refused to explain it. The dash clock ticked, then skipped a second. Then it returned, pretending nothing happened. A pale blue pulse appeared in his left mirror. It hovered above the road behind him. It held the same distance like a measured tether. Carlos sped up and watched it match perfectly. Carlos slowed and watched it slow without delay. He turned at an access fork, and it turned with him. It never swung wide like a truck would. It never corrected like a helicopter would. It moved like it already knew his route. He killed the cabin light and watched the pulse again. It stayed blue, clean, and edged. It did not blink like a tower beacon. It did not smear like a flare in wind. The pulse slid closer to his window. The radio breathing grew louder beside his seat. Carlos felt watched from above his roofline too. A wide shadow crossed the stars, then held steady. He tried to shake it with procedure. He stopped and cut his engine. The pulse stopped and waited behind him. He reversed slowly and the pulse slid backward too. He turned his headlights off completely. The pulse stayed visible and unchanged. The breathing continued in the radio, still timed. Carlos tasted metal and felt ozone in dry air. He started the engine and rolled forward again. The pulse followed, patient, as if guiding him north. Bunker 12 rose ahead like a black tooth. The blue pulse moved first. It waited above the bunker. The shadow around it widened. It flattened across the stars. It hovered low, perfectly steady. No wind stirred beneath it. No dust lifted from gravel. The radio breathing filled the cab. It sounded closer than his own lungs. Carlos felt pressure behind his eyes. His tongue tasted metal. The windshield glass tingled with static. His headlights dimmed until the road vanished. The engine died mid-roll. The cab went dead instantly. Every LED went dark at once. The breathing continued anyway. It now lived inside his skull. A blue glow pulsed near the bunker wall. It rose and fell like deep water. Frost crept along his window edges. The cab temperature dropped hard. His breath fogged, then vanished. Something stepped down from the hovering glow. It was tall, narrow, and wrong. Its limbs were too long. Its joints were thin and hinged. Its head looked smooth and stretched. Its eyes were black and unblinking. It moved without footfalls. Gravel never cracked beneath it. It faced the bunker door and raised one hand. The latch clicked without any touch. The door opened 6 inches. It stopped and held. Blue light breathed through the gap. A thin hiss rode the rhythm. It sounded like speech without syllables. Carlos felt a clean pull in thoughts. His body obeyed before refusal. He opened the truck door. Cold air bit through his jacket. The ground felt tilted. The alien stood at the crack. It waited like a handler. It turned slightly, inviting him closer. Carlos walked forward, sleepwalking. The blue glow painted his hands. His watch face flashed once. Then it froze at 3:17. He reached for the door edge. His fingers shook but still moved. The alien leaned back, making room. The bunker air breathed out at him. Carlos stepped toward the bunker without choosing the step. The air felt pressurized, then hollow, then pressurized again. Cold seeped through his jacket and into his bones. The radio breathing followed him out of the cab. It did not fade with distance. The alien waited at the cracked doorway, perfectly still. Carlos saw blue light crawl along the concrete seam. He smelled ozone, metal, and something sterile. The watch on his wrist stopped at 3:17. The threshold felt like walking through deep water. His skin prickled, then went numb. A low hum rose from the floor into his teeth. A thin hiss threaded through the breathing, tight and sharp. He heard faint clicks inside the walls, like tiny relays. The corridor looked longer than the bunker should allow. The blue light did not reflect like normal light. His shadow disappeared, then reappeared, then disappeared again. A perfect frost circle waited on the concrete floor. The edge looked cut with a tool. Crystal branches formed sharp geometric patterns. His boot stepped onto the ring, and pain spiked upward. It ran from shin to knee in one flash. His vision shimmered as if heat rose from ice. He tried to lift his foot and could not. The hum pulsed, then paused, then pulsed again. Each pulse tightened his chest like a clamp. The alien moved deeper, and Carlos followed like a leash. Blue lines ran along wall seams like veins. Symbols lit briefly, then rearranged themselves. He could not hold their shapes in memory. The breathing rhythm slowed until it matched his heartbeat. Then it led his heartbeat again. The corridor widened into a room with no clear corners. The ceiling felt higher than any bunker ceiling. Images slammed into his mind in hard bursts. He saw the desert mapped by grids from above. He saw an ocean lit blue under black sky. He saw smooth rooms with angles that refused perspective. He saw humans frozen mid-step, eyes open, mouths silent. He saw a clock hand split into 2 hands. He heard a chorus of distant machinery, steady and ancient. His stomach turned as if gravity shifted sideways. A human voice cut through the radio like a rope. Unit 4, respond now. Repeat, respond now. The command snapped his mind back into place. The blue glow faltered for one beat. Carlos saw the alien closer than before, inches away. Its eyes reflected nothing, not even blue light. Then it faded backward into the glow. Carlos stumbled, turned, and ran for the truck. Behind him, the bunker door breathed once more. Back at the station, they showed him the recordings. For 66 minutes, Carlos never left the seat. He sat rigid, hands on the wheel, eyes unblinking. Yet the bunker camera showed the door open in blue light. Carlos understood he lost an hour while staying awake. What do you think the bunker did to him? Comment your theory, then like and subscribe for more Midnight Facility files. At 2:31, 2 low UFO lights split above the desert. Marcus Holland's voice turned metallic, then stopped sounding human. Unit 9 found his truck running, and something watched from darkness. Marcus Holland patrolled alone along the reserve's broken service trails. He knew the desert by radio calls, gates, and mile markers. Dispatch heard him nightly, a steady voice in dead air. Some nights, the air answered back with tones nobody owned. Older agents joked about missing minutes near that horizon line. Holland never joked, and he never chased lights without proof. Then at 2:17, he checked in like nothing waited ahead. Holland rolled the service trail at a steady crawl. The moonless desert looked carved from charcoal. Headlights cut 2 narrow tunnels through scrub. The fence line vanished outside their reach. His radio carried routine checks and calm replies. Then the background hiss began pulsing. It rose and fell like controlled breathing. He tapped the speaker and checked the mic. The pulse stayed perfectly timed. He switched channels and returned to base. The pulse followed him across every band. He muted the radio and it continued faintly. The cab air felt heavy and dry. His ears popped with sudden pressure. His eyes watered for no reason. The windshield tingled with static. Sand beside the trail stopped drifting. Distant brush stopped moving, despite steady wind earlier. Even his engine sounded slightly muted. The dash clock ticked, then stalled briefly. It resumed without explanation. The minute hand jumped forward, then corrected itself. He checked the glove box watch, and it disagreed. He swallowed and tasted metal in his mouth. At 2:31, he called dispatch with urgency. He reported an orange-white object ahead. It hovered low at the horizon line. It sat about 50 feet above sand. It did not drift with wind at all. The brightness looked clean and sharp. No glow touched the ground below. The stars behind it looked dimmer, like swallowed light. Holland said it was not a plane. Holland said it was not a flare. He said it felt too close for distance. His next sentence sounded wrong. A metallic ring wrapped each word. A hollow echo followed half a beat later. Some consonants doubled with exact timing. Static climbed behind his voice, then dropped. Holland said the object brightened again. He said the air tasted like pennies. He said his chest felt squeezed. He said the trail markers looked warped. He said his mirrors showed a darker sky. He asked if dispatch heard breathing. Dispatch heard it and stayed silent. Holland said the sound matched his own exhale. Holland followed the object by truck only. He never opened the door. The glow slid along the trail ahead. It stayed just beyond his headlights. It moved like it knew the path. He slowed and it slowed too. He sped up and it pulled away. It kept the same distance, measured and calm. The radio pulse grew louder each minute. His phone screen dimmed, then died. His dash clock flashed 2:31 repeatedly. The engine sounded normal, yet the truck felt heavy. The steering wheel tugged toward the glow. His mirrors showed empty darkness behind. Yet he felt close company. The light split into two identical orbs overhead. They held 30 feet apart, perfectly level. Holland said the truck slowed by itself. His foot stayed off the brake. The orbs brightened until sand looked colorless. The air inside the cab turned icy. His breath fogged and hung too long. His window glass grew a thin frost edge. A darker mass formed inside the glow. A tall figure stepped down onto the trail. It stood beside his hood, silent and still. Long arms hung too low, joints too narrow. A smooth head tilted toward him. Large black eyes held the cab like a lock. The figure raised one hand toward the glass. The gesture looked like invitation forward. Holland said it wanted him closer. He gripped the wheel until knuckles hurt. The hum pressed into his teeth. The orbs rotated in place, perfectly synchronized. The figure moved without footfall sound. It slid one step, then another, unreal smooth. It stopped at the passenger window line. The black eyes stayed on his face. Holland felt his tongue go numb. His radio hiss became a tight grid of clicks. The clicks matched a counting rhythm. His dash lights dimmed, then flared. His cabin temperature dropped again. He tried to speak and choked. He stayed seated and stared forward. The figure angled its head as if listening. The orbs pulsed, then pulsed again. His heartbeat matched their timing. The windshield briefly showed faint geometric seams. They looked etched into the air itself. Holland whispered a warning, but static swallowed it. Then his signal collapsed into patterned static. Unit 9 arrived at 3:04 to a running truck. Headlights stayed on and steady. The engine idled without changing tone. Doors stayed locked from the outside. The trail looked undisturbed around the tires. No footprints crossed the sand nearby. No brush was bent near the doors. The cab looked empty from every window angle. Their radios carried the same pulsing hiss. They circled the truck with flashlights and radios. Their beams found nothing under the chassis. The hood was cold to touch. The mirrors were frosted in thin lines. The windshield showed faint condensation shapes. The shapes looked like angular symbols. They shifted when lights moved across glass. They forced the lock and opened the door. The seat was empty and belts lay untouched. The cab air felt colder than outside. A faint smell of ozone clung inside. The radio speaker hissed in slow pulses. The pulse matched the earlier cadence. Unit 9 called Holland's name into the empty cab. The speaker answered with a metallic chirp. The chirp repeated on perfect intervals. It sounded like a reply without language. Their dash camera recorded, then froze. The frozen frame showed a faint orange smear. Then the camera resumed with nothing visible. Unit 9 searched outward along the trail edge. Their light swept brush and stones. The desert went too quiet again. Even the idling engine sounded distant. A faint orange shimmer hovered farther down trail. It blinked out without movement. Their radios crackled with clipped bursts. The bursts repeated on exact intervals. It felt like someone counting. The air pressed on their ears again. They found Holland behind a low berm. He lay face down and unmoving. His arms were tucked under his chest. His skin felt cold, yet he breathed steadily. No drag marks cut the sand behind him. No footprints led away from the truck. It looked like he fell straight down. His patrol cap sat beside his hand. It was perfectly clean of sand. His boots had no grit on them. They lifted him, and he jolted awake suddenly. His eyes stayed wide and glassy. His jaw moved with stiff precision. He spoke in a metallic voice for long seconds. The same phrase repeated with perfect timing. Each repetition carried less human rhythm. His breath did not match his words. It sounded like an instrument reading him. His head turned toward the horizon. He stared at nothing and trembled. Then his face softened, and he blinked hard. His normal voice returned like a switch flipped. He asked why they moved his truck. He denied leaving the driver's seat at all. He insisted the last marker was 62. He remembered a low glow ahead. He remembered turning toward the passenger window. He remembered nothing after that. He started shivering and could not stop. Holland lost 35 minutes and refused every question. Unit 9 was ordered to stay quiet. The audio was stored off network. What spoke through Holland when the orbs hovered overhead? Comment your theory, then like and subscribe. A UFO shadowed Miguel for 7 miles along Highway 380. An alien appeared beside his cruiser under blue-white glare. Then the radio replayed Miguel's voice in metallic layers. Miguel Torres served as deputy sheriff in rural New Mexico. He knew long roads and longer silences. Reports came from the Roswell to Socorro corridor. Drivers described white beams, dead clocks, and missing minutes. Miguel logged them, then stopped writing details. Someone always arrived before sunrise. Evidence vanished. Witnesses went quiet. The highway stayed open, like nothing happened. Miguel called dispatch from a dirt turnout and reported position. Static answered first, then the hum returned again. He reported an orange-white glow low on the horizon. The speaker returned his words slightly higher than normal. It sounded like him, but hollow and metallic. He repeated the report and listened for human mistakes. There were none. Only perfect timing and clean cadence. Miguel checked the handset and the speaker grill. He checked the antenna cable and the dash fuse. Nothing changed, yet the hum stayed exact. The glow held steady above the scrub, never drifting. Miguel watched it brighten, then hold, then brighten again. It behaved like something noticing his attention. He whispered a curse and swallowed dry air. The radio clicked and echoed his whisper back. The echo arrived with no breath and no emotion. Miguel eased onto the service trail and advanced slowly. The glow split into 2 lights, 30 feet apart. Both lights stayed at the same low altitude. They slid forward without drift like pinned objects. Miguel kept his hands visible on the wheel. He changed speed twice to test them. The lights matched every change with precision. The hum landed with every skipped movement. The dashboard clock froze, then jumped ahead. The GPS map froze while tires still rolled forward. Miguel saw dust lift, then hang, then drop. The road looked darker under bright glare. He lifted a flashlight toward the nearest light. The beam bent away, curving around empty air. His ears filled with pressure without sound. His teeth ached like vibration inside bone. Miguel spoke again, slower, forcing calm. The radio returned his sentence as layered metallic echoes. The lights slid overhead and centered above his hoodline. Miguel felt watched by something counting his reactions. The 2 lights began skipping forward like missing film frames. Each skip arrived with the timed hum. A blue-white column formed beneath the left light. The column had hard edges like cut glass. It did not illuminate asphalt the normal way. The ground stayed dark, as if light was removed. Miguel swept his flashlight across the column again. The beam curved, then vanished, then returned behind it. Cold flooded the cabin without wind. His breath fogged, then stopped fogging, then returned. The engine idled steady, yet sounded distant and thin. The shifter trembled, then settled, then trembled again. Miguel gripped the wheel until his knuckles hurt. The hum deepened and pressed behind his eyes. His vision tightened, then widened, then snapped back. The lights above seemed closer, but never moved downward. They held position with unnatural steadiness. A dim silhouette appeared behind the lights. It looked wider than the road itself. Miguel could not find an edge or seam. The sky behind it looked wrong, darker than darkness. An alien stepped out from the blue column and faced him. It was tall, thin, and wrong in proportion. Its head looked smooth and elongated, with black almond eyes. Its limbs moved without sway, as if guided. It raised one long hand toward the windshield. Miguel heard meaning inside his head without words. The meaning felt like a calm command forward. His shifter moved by itself, then stopped again. The steering tugged left, then centered itself. Miguel fought both, breathing through sharp chest pressure. The alien leaned closer without footsteps or sound. Its fingers flexed with too many segments. The joints rippled, then locked, then rippled again. The radio clicked and spoke using Miguel's voice. The voice had no breath and no fear. It repeated his last sentence exactly, then paused. Miguel answered and heard himself return, slightly delayed. The returned voice sounded older and thinner. The alien tilted its head, studying his mouth. The lights above tightened, as if focusing. The blue column widened, then wrapped the cruiser in haze. Miguel tried honking, but the horn stayed silent. He tried shouting, but his voice felt distant. The hum continued, steady and patient. Miguel tried reversing, but distance felt unreal. The tires rolled, yet the scene refused change. The dashboard numbers drifted slowly, then froze again. The GPS showed impossible locations, then went blank. A thin smell of ozone filled the cabin. Miguel tasted copper and swallowed hard. The cabin air felt electrically dry. His skin prickled beneath his sleeves. The hum pressed deeper, like heavy fingers behind eyes. His heartbeat lagged behind itself. He watched his hands and felt delayed control. He blinked and saw double for seconds. The haze brightened, then dimmed, then brightened again. Shadows moved inside it, inverted and deliberate. Miguel saw dark forms hanging above the road. He saw long hands reaching toward the cabin outline. No door opened, yet he felt exposed. The alien raised its hand toward the glass again. Miguel felt a cold touch on his forehead. The touch arrived without contact. His hearing flattened, as if depth got removed. He could not hear the engine anymore. He still felt its vibration through the seat. Geometric symbols flickered across the windshield like brief frost. The symbols rotated and reassembled with cold precision. Miguel blinked, and they stayed one heartbeat longer. Then they vanished, leaving clean glass again. The radio replayed Miguel again, closer and older. The voice sounded like metal vibrating in water. It repeated a new phrase he never spoke. The phrase carried a gentle insistence forward. Miguel felt his thoughts separating into layers. One layer screamed and another stayed calm. The calm layer watched everything with detached interest. Miguel tried counting seconds, but numbers lost meaning. The haze tightened and pressed around the cruiser. His chest pressure spiked, then eased, then spiked again. His teeth ached with each hum pulse. The alien leaned back, then pointed down the trail. The two lights slid forward a few yards. Then they stopped and waited, perfectly still. Miguel felt that waiting as a demand. Images slammed into Miguel's mind without warning. He saw underground rooms beneath the highway corridor. He saw walls covered in moving symbols like circuitry. He saw rows of people standing with open eyes. He saw them dissolve into points of light. He saw those points stored inside a vast grid. A star map pulsed above the grid like a heartbeat. Each pulse matched the hum timing exactly. He saw his own cruiser from above. He saw himself sitting rigid, eyes unblinking. He saw the alien standing beside the hood line. He saw another figure behind the haze, taller still. The taller figure did not step forward. It stayed outside the light, observing. Sound snapped back like a slammed door in a tunnel. The haze vanished without fading or travel. Both lights winked out in the same instant. Miguel blinked and found gravel under his boots. He was far from the cruiser on open scrub. His cruiser sat locked, engine idling, lights still on. No footprints led away from the doors. No tracks crossed scrub between him and the car. Miguel staggered toward the road, dizzy and nauseated. A distant radio squawk cut through the returning night. Headlights appeared on the trail behind him. Responders circled the cruiser, checking doors and glass. They found Miguel lying beyond the beam edge. His eyes were open but unfocused. He tried speaking and produced metallic layered syllables. The syllables repeated with the hum rhythm. Then his normal voice returned in a rush. He asked why his car was moved. He insisted he never left the driver's seat. His hands shook as he touched his own face. He kept staring toward the empty sky. Station video showed Miguel sitting motionless for hours, never blinking once. When they found him, he was miles from the cruiser. Why do you think the UFO left his body but took his time? Comment your theory, then like and subscribe. Dana watched the lake floor on monitors, then an alien shadow crossed. The sonar showed a UFO hovering above the cable. The water turned colder and the cameras cracked. Dana Bishop maintained deep lake fiber lines for a living. Midlake ran 80 miles under Lake Michigan. The work usually felt boring, mechanical, repeatable. That night, the lake behaved like it recognized her equipment. The ROV dropped into black water beneath mid-lake cable markers. Dana watched 2 monitors and a sonar strip. The cable line stayed centered and clean. The thrusters held a steady pace. The lamps cut a narrow tunnel through silt. A hard sonar return appeared above the ROV. It tracked the ROV with perfect spacing. Dana checked for fish schools. The return stayed too stable. The return never drifted with currents. The return held 15 feet across. The camera feed darkened without losing resolution. A shadow slid across both lamp beams. The shadow moved with deliberate timing. It blocked light without scattering anything. It seemed to swallow light completely. The ROV yaw readout twitched once, then corrected itself. The altitude sensor jumped, then locked. The compass spun, then stopped. The audio channel filled with a low hum. The hum lasted exactly 2 seconds. Dana ordered a slow retreat along the cable. The shadow mirrored the retreat instantly. It stayed above the ROV like an escort. Dana saw a curved edge within darkness. The edge looked metallic and smooth. It reflected nothing back at all. A second shadow joined the first. The sonar showed 2 returns now. They moved in formation around the ROV. They crossed above it, then swapped positions. The swap happened without visible acceleration. Dana watched the cable vanish under the shadows. A faint shimmer rippled across the video. The shimmer bent the cable line visually. It made straight lines look slightly curved. The effect stopped, then restarted, then stopped. Dana told the operator to surface immediately. The ROV climbed faster than planned. The returns followed partway, then halted. They held position in empty water. They stayed fixed as the ROV rose. On deck, the housing showed a fresh crack. The crack ran in a clean arc. It looked pressed, not struck. The metal felt freezer cold in Dana's hands. The lake sensor still read 62 Fahrenheit. Dana checked the recording timestamp twice. It advanced without gaps on the monitor. The raw file later showed missing frames. The missing frames matched the hum perfectly. Dana realized the lake had edited her evidence. She looked over the side into darkness. The surface stayed calm and flat. A faint blue glint flashed once below. It felt like a reply, not an accident. Dana ended the run and logged everything anyway. ROV repairs would take days they did not have. Dana authorized a diver inspection of the cable. The diver descended with heated suit systems. Dana monitored comms and tracking pings. The water looked calm above, then turned heavy. At 120 feet, the diver reported sudden pressure. The voice sounded compressed and strained. The diver said the lights felt dimmer. Dana checked the topside power feed. Everything looked normal on the panel. A second target appeared on the fish finder. It was larger than the diver's signature. It matched every movement the diver made. It stayed behind at a fixed distance. It never drifted or wandered away. At 200 feet, the diver stopped answering briefly. The diver mic carried only breathing. The breathing sounded too loud and slow. Then the diver whispered one word, alien. Dana felt her stomach drop. The water temperature dropped inside a tight bubble. The diver's suit heater read maximum output. The diver still reported freezing cold. Dana saw the depth readout fluctuate wildly. It jumped 10 feet without motion. The diver reached the cable and saw disturbed sediment. The trench ran in straight segments. The trench ended in a clean circle. The circle looked carved, not eroded. The diver light revealed shallow scoring on the cable. A black curved surface moved into the beam. It filled the view with featureless darkness. The darkness did not ripple like water. It held shape like a hull. The hull edge hovered inches from the mask. A low hum returned through the comms line. It lasted exactly 2 seconds again. The diver froze for 3 full seconds. Dana watched bubbles still rise above. Then the diver surged upward without warning. The second target rose too, maintaining its spacing. It moved faster than any diver could. It never closed the gap completely. It circled once, then fell back again. Dana saw the target align under the boat. On deck, the diver ripped off gloves, shaking. The diver face was pale and rigid. The diver mask showed symmetrical scorch marks inside. The marks formed 3 evenly spaced arcs. Dana measured them against the lamp ring. The diver swore the water felt ice cold throughout. Dana believed the fear in that voice. Heat and cold had traded places down there. Something could rewrite the rules locally. Something wanted the diver to notice. Dana reviewed the dive log immediately. The log showed a time skip of 2 minutes. The diver memory filled no details for that span. The fish finder recorded a blank band at the same moment. Dana marked the incident as deliberate interference. She stared at the lake until her eyes watered. She imagined a craft beneath the cable line. She imagined aliens reading the signal pulses. She imagined them studying human infrastructure like nerves. Dana realized Midlake was a beacon in darkness. Dana filed a report with careful technical language. The report came back edited, then shortened, then closed. Management called it equipment failure and human stress. Dana kept her raw files anyway. She copied them to 3 drives. She logged checksums and dates in a notebook. She slept with the drives near her bed. She woke to faint hum in quiet rooms. She began watching the lake forecasts obsessively. 2 months later, Dana received an email from an unknown address. It contained coordinates and a single time. No greeting appeared and no signature followed. Dana went alone after sundown. The dock lights flickered as she arrived. The air smelled clean, then suddenly metallic. The lake surface looked flat and too dark. Her phone dropped from full bars to none. Her watch froze on the minute and refused to tick. A figure stood where the pier met open water. The face stayed hidden by distance and shadow. The voice spoke calmly, with no hesitation. The voice said the lakes contain deep water anomalies. The voice said the anomalies respond to cables and hulls. The voice said the anomalies are not local wildlife. Dana asked about the shadow above her ROV. The voice answered with one word, alien. Dana asked why the housing turned freezer cold. The voice said field effects can rewrite temperature. Dana asked what they wanted from Midlake. The voice said they wanted signal structure. Dana drove home feeling watched from behind the horizon. She replayed the first encounter until dawn. The shadow always moved the same way. It crossed the lamps with measured speed. The hum always lasted 2 seconds exactly. The sonar return always held perfect spacing. Dana realized the craft was testing her sensors. It was learning what her gear could detect. She found missing minutes in the video metadata. The files jumped forward without corruption. The gaps aligned with the hum every time. The gaps aligned with sonar saturation spikes. It felt coordinated, not accidental. Dana returned to the cable charts and traced every incident. Each event clustered near deeper troughs. Each event happened during low surface traffic. Each event ended with device anomalies on deck. Her laptop fan surged during playback. Her home lights dimmed once during file copying. She stopped using cloud storage entirely. She sealed one drive inside a metal box. The box still vibrated faintly on some nights. Dana began seeing after images of circles in her vision. One evening, Dana opened the newest drive copy. She found a folder she never created. The timestamps matched her missing minutes exactly. The folder contained still frames, not full video. Each frame showed the cable from above, perfectly centered. The lighting looked impossible for that depth. A dark arc hung above the cable in every frame. In the final frame, the camera looked upward. The screen filled with a human eye, wide open. The iris pattern matched Dana's own eye. The reflection showed the ROV lamps behind it. Dana understood the worst detail immediately. The craft had used her camera as a mirror. It had recorded her watching it record her. Dana stopped taking deep lake jobs after that night. She keeps the drives hidden and checks them monthly. She hears the hum in silence and flinches. Why would they archive her eye, not her footage? Drop your theory, then like, subscribe, and stay alert. October 14th. Grant finds a dark blue Ford F-250. It sits alone on a rocky ledge. The driver door hangs wide open. The key is still in the ignition. The radio hisses with white noise. A calm male voice repeats one warning. Do not look up at the sky. The ranch sits east of Laramie, about 30 miles out. Grant Avery runs a small spread there. He is checking fence lines that afternoon. A wildlife biologist walks with him. They spot the truck from far away. It is parked with careful precision. Yet the location makes no sense. The nose points due north. There is no road, there is no trail. Only brushland runs to the horizon. Grant climbs up the rock. He studies the dashboard. The headlight switch is set to on. He follows the angle of the beams. At night, the lights would aim skyward. They would point toward a distant ridge. One outcrop looks like a broken tooth. Grant calls the sheriff office. Deputies arrive before sunset, then another unit joins them. They photograph the ford and the ledge. They tag the tire tracks below. They scan the brush with lights kept low. No prints lead to the door. No trail leads away. A deputy leans into the cab without sitting down. The key is still in the ignition. The seat is clean. The floor mat has no new grit. The radio never settles. The calm voice repeats the same sentence, steady and patient. They decide to hold the scene through the night. 2 units park below the rock with engines off. They watch the open door in a handheld scope, then switch to thermal. The cab stays cold and empty. Near midnight, the static changes cadence. The pauses between repeats stretch longer. Everyone feels pressure in their ears, like a storm building. A faint hum rises from the ground and fades. Around 3:17, the Ford headlights flicker once, as if they breathe. Nobody touches the switch. The open door does not move, yet the beams tremble in place. At dawn, Grant climbs back up with the deputies. The inside of the windshield is suddenly covered in dense writing. Every line says the same thing. Do not look up at the sky. The marks look fresh, with uneven strokes and crowded lines. A deputy tries to rub one word with a glove. It does not smear. It feels set into the glass. Someone tries to take photos. One phone camera freezes on a black screen. Another captures a single frame of pale light and then crashes. Nobody says what they think it resembles. More people arrive as word spreads. By late afternoon, one volunteer does not return from the brush. His radio clicks once, then plays the warning on a loop. They find boot prints that end in bare dirt with no next step. Night brings more vehicles. A second truck appears along a dry wash. A sedan turns up on a dirt turnout. An ATV sits by a fence gate. Each one matches the pattern. Door open, key in place, radio warning, headlights aimed upward. Grant becomes a staging point. Deputies, volunteers, and neighbors rotate through his ranch. They tape windows, aim lights at the ground, and repeat the rule out loud. Eyes down, then people begin to vanish. A deputy walks behind a barn and never returns. A volunteer reaches into a cab to shut off a radio and is simply gone. The door stays open. The key stays in place. On the third night, power cuts out across the ranch. Phones glitch. Floodlights die. A truck rolls into the yard without an engine sound. Its headlights snap on and rake the roofline. A porch voice calls Grant's name in a missing deputy voice and repeats the warning. Panic breaks the group. One volunteer lifts his head for direction, then freezes, then steps forward into nothing. A ranch hand grabs him and vanishes too. Grant runs to the horse barn with his chin tucked. Heavy steps move above the loft, too deep for boots. A voice outside imitates the wildlife biologist, begging him to open the door while repeating the warning in perfect rhythm. The voice laughs in stacked tones. Grant climbs into the root cellar and pulls the hatch shut. Above him, the heavy steps pause over the boards as the warning shifts from the yard into his skull. Morning arrives with brittle light. The power returns without a reset. Grant climbs out of the root cellar. The ranch is wrong in a quiet way. Vehicles that filled the yard are gone. Footprints that should crisscross the dirt are missing. Even the barn dust looks undisturbed. Grant drives to the sheriff office. The building is open but half lit. Fewer deputies remain than there should be. They confirm what Grant already senses. More people are missing. Some vanished near vehicles. Some vanished inside their own homes. In several places, a radio was found playing the warning on a loop. Search teams return to the ledge. The Ford is there again, exactly placed. The writing still coats the windshield. The letters look deeper now, more like an etch than ink. They find the missing truck owner inside his own vehicle miles away. Causes cardiac arrest. His eyes are open and fixed upward. The wildlife biologist is still missing. Her phone logs show offline for days. Yet Grant remembers her voice at night, close and clear. A quiet visitor arrives in a plain vehicle with government plates. No full name, no badges shown long. He speaks with the sheriff office in a closed room, then asks to speak to Grant alone. He shows a file worn at the corners. Cases across decades, different counties, same pattern. Doors open, keys in place, radios warning, headlights aimed upward. He speaks about observation. He uses careful language. The entities exist in a quantum state. They become more real when observed. Attention collapses them into solidity. Observation is fuel. Vehicles act as conduits. Radios pull ears, headlights pull eyes. The beam into the sky forces a choice. Grant asks what happens when someone looks. The visitor says geometry loosens. Time slips. The sky becomes a doorway that only opens when watched. Grant thinks of his ceiling seam bending. He thinks of the volunteer who took one step and then no second step. The visitor warns Grant to reduce observation. Curtains closed, no mirrors facing windows, no porch lights, no reflective metal left outside. Grant returns home before dusk. The ranch feels too exposed. The horizon line feels too sharp. That night, the hum begins earlier. It rises from the north, from the direction of the Broken Tooth Ridge. Grant stays inside with every curtain drawn. He sits on the floor away from windows. He keeps his gaze on the wood planks. Then the radio turns on by itself. The voice is not calm anymore. It is softer, closer, intimate. Grant does not own that radio. The warning repeats, but now it sounds like an invitation. Do not look up at the sky. Something knocks once on the roof. Not a branch, not hail. A single heavy touch as if testing. The ceiling seam above Grant bends again, deeper this time. The boards do not creak. They simply shift, as if the room is being remeasured. Grant crawls toward the hallway, eyes down, hand feeling the floor. The hum thickens until it feels like pressure on his teeth. A line of light appears under the front door, too bright, too clean. It widens as if the door is opening. Grant keeps his eyes on the baseboard. He speaks to himself to stay anchored. Then his shadow moves the wrong way. It stretches upward along the wall, climbing toward the ceiling while Grant stays low. The last thing Grant hears is his own voice from the porch, perfectly imitated, repeating the warning with calm patience. Do not look up at the sky. After that night, the ranch sits dark and silent. The curtains are either all shut tight or all pulled open, depending on who you ask. Some say Grant left without a trace. Some say he is still inside, sitting on the floor with his eyes down. Nobody is willing to stand in the yard long enough to find out. What do you think happened to Grant? Comment your theory, then like and subscribe for the next report.
Dean opened Unit 23 and found the odometer reading 0 miles. The dashcam file showed 47 seconds of white screen and a deep well echo. Dispatch swore he vanished for 15 minutes while he was still standing there. Dean Matthews is 38. He has patrolled the border 11 years. He trusted maps and procedure. He did not trust ghosts or aliens. Then October 3rd, 2024 arrived. Route 87 cuts through West Texas desert. Night there feels endless. Dean patrolled with a partner. Near midnight, a low hum rose southward. It pulsed in steady beats, then stopped. At 2:14 a.m., Dean found Unit 23 on the shoulder. The emergency lights pulsed in steady beats. The driver door stood open into dry wind. The cab was empty and too quiet. The engine blocks still felt warm. The odometer perfectly clean. Dean stared at the digits, then checked again. It was still 0, with no scratches. He checked the dash for dust lines. Everything looked reset, not replaced. The fuel gauge sat at half, like normal. The seatbelt hung straight and untouched. The steering wheel felt cool, not human warm. Dean searched the dirt near the door. No boot prints circled the cab. No drag marks crossed the sand. No scuffle marks cut the gravel. The road shoulder looked undisturbed. Even pebbles sat in neat clusters. His radio showed no bars at all. His phone showed no service either. The hum rose from the south again. It pulsed 3 times, then died. Dean opened the glove box and found the dash camera. He carried it to the patrol laptop. The file played with a clean timestamp. 2 officers stopped for strange road lights. One stepped out and faced the darkness. The other opened the door to follow. Then the image turned pure white for 47 seconds. No motion lines, no glare, just white. The audio held only a deep echo. It repeated like a well. Slow and hollow. The echo never matched their footsteps. When the picture returned, both were gone. The open door remained on screen. The emergency lights still flashed outside. The timestamp jumped forward without warning. Logs showed 6 missing minutes around that gap. Dean called dispatch and reported every detail. Dispatch said Dean vanished for 15 minutes. Dean checked his own watch and doubted it. He felt only 10 minutes pass, at most. Dean was forced onto leave after the roadside find. A plain envelope reached his home. No return address. Inside were copied reports and clipped photos. 17 cases across 8 years. Vehicles reset to impossible data. Radios dead, GPS wrong, and missing time. Some survivors carried geometric marks. Most described the same low hum. Many described lights moving against physics. A few described tall, thin beams near the lights. Large heads appeared in every account. Dean tried to dismiss it as rumor, yet Unit 23 matched the pages too well. 3 weeks later, the pattern found Dean again. He worked a different sector that night. His radio died mid-sentence. His GPS reset to unfamiliar coordinates. The hum returned and pressed into his teeth. 3 lights appeared off the roadway, holding formation. Dean counted seconds to stay anchored. His watch showed 4 minutes of tracking. His body felt less than 1 minute. Then the lights vanished at impossible speed. Dean stopped waiting for permission after that. He began investigating alone. He built a monitoring post at mile marker 43. He used hardened gear, backup power, and paper logs. On November 17th, intensity spiked hard. 7 lights formed a ring around his position. Radios failed at once, then stayed dead. The echo hid inside his head, not ears. 1 light dropped 20 feet away. A thin figure stood inside the glow. Upright and too tall. A question pressed into his mind. Do you understand? Dean could not answer fast enough. Then he lost 15 minutes of real time. Tests later found rare earths in his blood. Unit 23 never returned. The missing list grew anyway. 37 became 45. Then the numbers stopped being shared aloud. Dean kept their last location pinned on a paper map, a small X that never moved. He stopped telling himself it was accidents and errors. Something took people off Route 87, and it did it on purpose. Dean went back to Route 87 alone and stayed there. He drove the same loop at the same hours, week after week, as if routine could force a pattern to show itself. He logged everything with paper and mechanical tools, not just electronics. He wrote down each hum pulse, each radio blackout, each GPS reset, each moment his watch disagreed with the truck clock. He started leaving markers on the shoulder, then checking them later. Not once did he find a normal explanation that fit all the data. Then the UFO stopped hiding. One night the hum rose and the air went thick, and a craft appeared over the roadway like it had been there all along. It was huge, wider than the highway, a dark shape with no visible seams. It hovered without wind wash, without engine sound, without heat shimmer. Lights ran along its underside in clean geometric lines, not blinking like aircraft, but sliding like a signal. Dean watched it through the windshield, hands locked on the wheel, and the odometer flashed 0 miles again for 2 seconds before returning. On another night, the craft came lower, and Dean saw movement inside the light, not just glare. A tall alien figure stood within the glow beside his truck, human-shaped but too thin, head too large, eyes too wide to belong to any person. It did not walk in from the desert. It was simply there when the light arrived. Dean heard a voice in his mind, calm and precise, asking the same question from his earlier encounter. Do you understand? His mouth went dry. He tried to speak out loud and his radio crackled with the words instead, as if his thoughts were being routed through the speaker. The encounters multiplied. 3 escort lights would sweep ahead of his patrol route, then stop and hold formation, guiding him toward a spot on the shoulder. When Dean slowed, the UFO would appear above, and the desert would turn silent. He saw 2 more alien figures beside the road, standing in a line like survey posts. He forced himself to look long enough to describe them, then look away long enough to stay functional. Each time, time slipped. His watch would jump ahead, his body would feel only seconds. After one blackout, he found a fresh geometric mark on his forearm, sharp-edged and pale, like a pattern pressed under the skin. His boots carried fine white dust that did not match any local soil. Dean realized the missing minutes were not empty. They were filled with contact he could not fully remember. The dashcam whiteout was not glare. It was a controlled screen, a deliberate cut. The odometer 0 was not a glitch. It was a reset to baseline before they ran the next test. Unit 23 remains unsolved. The desert keeps its secrets, and Route 87 keeps its silence. Dean still patrols at night, waiting for the next hum pulse and the next impossible reset. Share your theory below, then hit like and subscribe so you do not miss the next report.
In Washington, D.C., Charlotte receives a sealed file marked Human Trials. The footage shows an alien standing beside a crashed UFO. The next page lists Charlotte as the new clearance holder. Charlotte works inside a quiet federal office. She audits black budget programs and writes compliance summaries. She believes paperwork cannot hide reality forever. The file begins with October 3rd, 2024. A UFO loses control above the Nevada desert. It falls fast and silent near Area 51. A lone alien exits the wrecked craft. It staggers on thin legs and scans the dark horizon. A patrol spotlight finds it before it can run. Recovery teams arrive within minutes. They seal the sand with floodlights. They sweep for debris and footprints. The UFO lies half buried and smoking. The alien stands near the torn hull. It sways, then steadies. It does not run. It watches the perimeter lights. Its eyes track each moving person. A patrol spotlight pins the alien. The alien freezes. A handler shouts simple commands. The alien tilts its head, almost curious. The first shot is not a bullet, it is a net. The net hits and tightens. The alien falls without a sound. No scream, no struggle. They move fast after that. A sealed stretcher rolls in. The alien is wrapped and locked. The stretcher is tagged as equipment. Engineers cut free major UFO panels. They label each piece. They pack them into foam crates. The crates are loaded under canvas. The convoy leaves before dawn. Trucks travel without headlights. Radios use coded bursts. Every mile marker is logged by hand. The craft enters a hangar below the runway. The doors close without echoes. The alien enters a white lab corridor. Initial tests begin immediately. Scanners sweep bone and tissue. Blood is drawn with robotic arms. Neural probes map unfamiliar rhythms. Engineers study the UFO core. They remove plates and fasteners. Some parts refuse to separate. Some parts feel warm and alive. Charlotte reads the earliest logs in DC. She sees the same line often. Subject shows no resistance. Subject maintains steady gaze. She flags that detail and requests raw footage. She wants uncut time codes. She wants badge scans and door logs. The first files arrive with gaps. Cameras jump forward without alerts. Badge scans repeat in perfect loops. Charlotte feels a cold certainty. She requests a field visit. The approval arrives too fast. It arrives within 1 hour. She books a flight that same morning. Charlotte enters the facility as an observer. She signs forms she cannot copy. She walks through doors with no labels. The air smells like metal. She watches the alien through thick glass. Its skin reflects light with wet sheen. Its chest rises with slow precision. Its eyes never blink. Staff speaks softly near the room. They repeat the same phrases daily. They forget questions after answering. They move like synchronized clocks. Charlotte reviews the experiment schedule. Every test is harsh and exact, yet every change favors the alien. Sedatives are reduced too soon. The alien sits upright by week 2. It lifts its arms with ease. By week 3, its vitals look normal. The staff call it recovery. Charlotte calls it acceleration. She compares lab notes across days. A missing line returns in another file. The handwriting does not match. She visits the hangar next. The UFO looks less damaged now. Weld lines vanish between frames. Cracks appear smooth by morning. Engineers claim they repaired it. Their work orders lack tool lists. Their diagrams repeat strange symbols. Nobody can explain the shapes. Charlotte tests the staff with small questions. She asks who approved the new plan. 3 people answer the same sentence. She asks why the alien never resists. A guard says it is cooperative. Charlotte watches the guard blink twice, then smile. She asks for one change. She wants the alien left alone. The request is approved fast. It is approved within 1 hour. That night, power dips for 8 seconds. Monitors turn white across the wing. When video returns, the alien is standing. No door opens during the white gap. No alarm triggers, no guard moves on camera. The alien is simply closer to the glass. Charlotte feels pressure behind her eyes. A thought arrives without sound. It asks her about control and direction. She writes one word in her notebook: influence. Her pen scratches too hard. She does not look away from the glass. After that night, the facility mood curdles. The hangar shifts into constant work, but the people doing it look worse each day. Engineers arrive early and leave late, yet their faces slacken. Conversations shrink into mutters, tempers flare over small mistakes. Coffee cups stack up, someone cries in a stairwell and claims it is allergies. Charlotte watches the symbols spread anyway. Not as neat rituals, but as absent-minded scribbles. The shapes appear on napkins, on whiteboards, on the edges of reports. They show up in the margins of her own drafts, even when she is sure she did not draw them. Nobody argues about what they mean anymore. People only say they cannot sleep. The UFO hum returns at irregular hours, low and clean, and it makes everyone irritable. Tools vibrate on benches. A metal tray creeps a few inches across a table. Fluorescent lights flicker, then stay dimmer than before. The hangar air feels heavier near the craft, like pressure at depth. Charlotte realizes the control is already in place. It is not marching orders, it is erosion. Attention pulled, mood dragged down, thinking narrowed, until people choose the same path because the alternatives feel exhausting. She sees it in meetings, in the way questions die on tongues, in the way everyone stops looking directly at the craft, yet keeps working on it. Observation windows extended, security rotations thinned. The official reason is efficiency. The real effect is access. Inside the lab, the alien walks now. It moves with slow economy and touches walls as if reading them. It pauses at corners, then turns its head as if listening to signals inside the building. The staff around it look hollowed out, more tired than afraid, as if their fear has been used up. Charlotte catches the truth before the next white screen. The craft is not being repaired by human insight. Humans are being guided into repairing it. The alien does not need to force them. It only needs to keep them worn down and focused. That same night, the sky changes early. Over the desert beyond the facility, lights appear high and steady. Not one matches any known aircraft. They arrive in groups and hold perfect positions. The hangar cameras catch their reflections on the UFO skin, sliding like cold stars across wet metal. Alarms should rise. Instead, the building sinks into a deeper quiet. People stop talking. Some sit down where they stand. A guard stares at a blank wall and breathes through his mouth. Charlotte walks into the hangar and stands close enough to feel the hum in her bones. The UFO surface looks seamless now, almost alive, and the symbols on the floor seem to point toward her shoes. A shadow touches her shoulder before she hears a step. She turns and sees the alien behind her, closer than the glass should allow. Its eyes hold her with calm precision. A long finger presses lightly against her forearm. The contact is cold, then warm, then numb. Charlotte cannot move at first. The hum drops out. In the silence, her pulse sounds loud and wrong. The alien does not speak aloud. Meaning arrives anyway, heavy and intimate, as if placed inside her body. The lights above the facility hold their formation, waiting. After that week, Charlotte is back in DC and looks almost normal. She stands at windows without blinking and rubs the spot on her forearm. Her phone fills with upward static photos she does not remember taking. When the city sky flickers with distant lights, her face goes blank. Share your theory below, then hit like and subscribe so you do not miss the next report. Nina replayed the last radio call and heard a pure tone appear after silence. At the final radar point, she found a glassy burn circle with no wreckage anywhere. Footprints walked out of the circle and ended mid-step, like the desert erased the rest. Nina Ellis is an NTSB air accident investigator. She works wreckage, radar tracks, and last calls. On April 9, 2019, a FAA inspector vanished with a Cessna 172 over the Black Rock Desert in Nevada. Search teams found no debris field and no ELT signal. Nina reached Black Rock before sunrise. The desert looked scraped clean by wind. No smoke column marked a crash path. She reviewed radar plots in a dusty trailer. The last return held steady for seconds. Then the target blinked out without drift. She replayed the final radio audio again. A pure tone rose after the last word. It held, perfect and steady, then stopped. At the final coordinate, the ground was wrong. A scorched circle sat in pale playa dust. It measured about 12 feet across. Inside, sand had turned into dark glass. The glass had ripples as if it flowed. Aluminum fragments sat trapped in the glass. They were twisted and half melted. No impact trench surrounded the circle. No skid marks led into it. There was no crater wall. Nina knelt and touched the vitrified edge. It felt smooth and cold. She chipped a sample with a tool. The shard rang with a clean tone. It matched the radio pitch in her head. Footprints began at the circle rim. They walked outward in a straight line. The stride length stayed normal for 10 steps. Then the prints ended mid-step. One heel mark stopped in open dirt. The next toe never formed. Nina widened the search in a slow grid. She found 3 deep impressions nearby. They formed a perfect triangle around the circle. Each impression looked pressed straight down. The edges were sharp and heavy. The spacing felt measured, not accidental. She deployed ground radar across the triangle. A dense anomaly appeared 8 feet below. It sat under the center line of the pattern. She dug with small tools and patience. The sand cooled faster than it should. Her compass needle twitched at each scoop. At last, metal flashed under the dirt. She uncovered a sphere the size of a basketball. Its surface shimmered through shifting colors. The hues moved without any light source. She lifted it and felt disbelief. It was far too light for its size. It felt almost weightless, yet solid. Her phone screen flickered near the sphere. The camera failed to focus on its skin. Audio recorders picked up the pure tone again. Nina wrapped the sphere in cloth and packed it. She labeled the bag as field evidence. Then she heard engines approaching fast. Headlights did not arrive. There were no sirens. The engines came from above. The desert sky dimmed in a clean circle. A huge craft lowered without wind. It hovered over the burn mark in glass. Its underside held faint geometric lines. The pure tone returned, louder now. Nina felt it in her teeth. Dust lifted in a slow ring. Her tools rattled without touching. The sphere reacted inside her bag. It vibrated like a trapped pulse. It rose on its own into open air. Light wrapped around it like a tether. A beam hit the ground beside Nina. The beam had no heat and no glare. It pulled her upward anyway. Her boots left the playa with no jump. Nina fought and grabbed at dirt. Her hands closed on nothing. Air thickened and sound collapsed. Then she was inside the craft. Cold metal walls, white light without fixtures. A humming silence that pressed her thoughts. A tall alien figure approached. Thin limbs, large head, wide black eyes. Its skin held a wet matte sheen. It did not speak aloud. Meaning entered her mind like pressure. They examined her with calm precision. A ring of light scanned her skin. A needle-like tool touched her wrist. Her vision flashed white between breaths. Nina kicked and tore free. She forced her body through a narrow opening. An access panel gave under her shoulder. She crawled into a darker passage. The tone weakened as she moved. She followed airflow to an outer hatch. The hatch opened onto night desert. Nina dropped and ran. The desert looked unreal after the craft. Stars felt too sharp. The air tasted like metal. Nina ran until her lungs burned. A figure walked ahead on the playa. It was the missing pilot. He looked clean and calm. He said, "Stay, it is safer inside." Nina refused and turned away. The tone surged sharp and pure. Her knees buckled without pain. Air thickened around her chest. A shadow covered the playa. The craft was above her again. A beam opened beside her feet. It had no heat, no glare. It pulled her sideways, not upward. Her body slid across sand like it was ice. Her hands clawed but found no grip. The alien figures waited at the beam edge. Tall, thin, silent, large heads, wide black eyes, long fingers with narrow joints. They moved with calm certainty. One hand closed on her forearm, cold, then warm, then numb. Her vision turned white in pulses. The tone locked into a steady note. Nina tried to scream. No sound left her mouth. Her thoughts arrived slow and heavy, like words stuck in syrup. She crossed into the craft again. Cold metal under her back. White light without fixtures. No seams on the walls, only smooth curves and angles. A ring of light formed above her. It spun without visible source. It scanned from head to boots. Each pass made her skin prickle. Each pass made time feel thinner. A thin tool hovered near her eye. It stopped just short of contact. Then meaning pressed into her mind. A question with no voice. Do you understand? Nina fought to move her fingers. She forced one hand into a fist. The ring slowed as if noticing. The aliens did not react outwardly. Their attention felt physical. A panel opened in the wall. A second light poured out. It shaped itself into a grid. The grid settled over her chest. Her heartbeat stuttered under it, then returned in perfect rhythm. Another tool touched her wrist, a pinprick, then pressure. She felt liquid move in her veins. Her skin flashed with faint patterns, geometric lines, then gone. The craft showed her images, not on a screen, inside her mind. The burn circle from above, the triangle impressions, the sphere rising like a signal. The pilot walking, calm and empty. She realized the pilot was bait, a friendly face for the threshold, a voice to keep her inside. The thought made her panic sharpen. The tone changed key, space folded around the room. The walls looked farther away, then closer. Her stomach lifted as if falling, yet her body never moved. The aliens leaned in, their eyes reflected her face. No blink, no expression, only steady observation. Nina felt her memory being sorted. Moments pulled apart like cards. Some were placed back, some were set aside. She tried to hold on to dates. The numbers slipped away. A final scan passed over her forehead. The light lingered there. She smelled ozone. She tasted copper. Then the room dimmed. She woke on the desert floor. Only seconds seemed to pass. Her return felt incomplete, like part of her stayed inside. Her watch showed a different date. Her phone held blank footage. A pale geometric mark sat on her skin. She stood up and felt wrong. Nina returned to the ground, but not to herself. She hears the pure tone in quiet rooms. She loses minutes without moving. Sometimes she wakes with dust on her shoes. If you have a theory about what took her, share it below. Then hit like and subscribe for the next report.